Kenmore, doors will open on the left.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 39 of Entering Kenmore. I am David Azer alongside Zach Coe. Zach, been a minute. I think last time we talked, the World Series wasn't even over, so
yeah,
it's been about 2 or 3 weeks since we last talked. First things first, missed talking ball with you. Happy to be back. And a lot of news to catch up on. So throughout the past 3 weeks, there have been, I think, like 4 or 5 Red Sox trades. Also, some potential targets are already off the board. But we can start with the qualifying offers, and that being the Red Sox not offering Lucas Giolito a qualifying offer, so he is now a free agent. How are we feeling about that?
I feel like we never really had this discussion, so I don't know where you fell on this. I was kind of back and forth. Honestly, I'm glad they didn't go the route I was leaning towards, because I was kind of leaning towards offering it to him, thinking that even if it wasn't the 22 mil for a year that he was going to get from the QO, he still would have declined it in search of a multi-year deal. Like, we know the toll that bouncing around from Chicago to LA to Cleveland had on him. He said at the deadline he didn't want to be traded. It seemed like he was kind of looking for a spot to settle down. So even if I thought there would have been a multi-year deal out there for him, even if at a lower AAV, that would have caused him to decline the QO. But now looking at some of the names that accepted it, Giolito 110,000% would have accepted it.
No doubt. I'm with you there. I think it's weird because, and we'll get to this later, but Craig Breslow mentioned that the team feels pretty comfortable with their starters like 3 through 10. And I think Giolito would have fallen into that category. And whether that means they're not going to bring him back, they have no intention to bring him back or not, I'm not 100% sure, but I lean towards they're probably not going to bring him back, and you feel comfortable with the younger depth you have there. And I think what Giolito gave you last year can't be understated. I mean, it was a big question mark heading into the year how his body would hold up after obviously being injured and having a down year the year before that. I think he was on like 3 different teams. So you weren't really sure what you were going to get. I think largely it was really good. I mean, he fell off towards the end of the season. Obviously, he got hurt, couldn't pitch in that wild card series. Would that have changed the outcome? I'm not entirely sure, but I'm okay with them moving on from him. Yeah, I don't think so either.
Lucas Giolito wasn't going to step up to the plate and hit a home run.
Yeah, he wasn't helping you take Brian Bayo out at 28 pitches. So.
Yeah, it goes back to my age-old adage that a team has never won a baseball game in which they scored 0 runs. So it could have been fucking prime Roger Clemens out there on the mound in Game 3 instead of Connolly early. And unless the Red Sox offense was going to hit the ball even at all, it wasn't going to matter.
I agree, and I honestly think there's more upside in some of these other guys that they could bring in than Lucas Giolito.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I didn't enjoy his time in Boston. It's just we're trying to upgrade this team. I mean, it's been emphasized since the offseason began, and even before that the Red Sox have needed a number 2 starter. Unfortunately, Lucas Giolito isn't that guy. So if you can upgrade, you can upgrade, and that's kind of just how the business goes sometimes. And he did want to stay. I wonder if he would take a discount. Probably not. Just looking at this roster now, it's like there's a lot of people who could take that spot. I mean, it depends if you want to keep Connolly early and Peyton Tolley down in AAA to start next season to
if they're even on the team.
Right. So a lot of avenues to improve this team. I just don't see where Giolito falls into that.
Yeah, I don't either. It didn't really sound like there was a ton of interest coming from the Red Sox side in bringing him back. So it was weird. A lot of players accepting the qualifying offer this year. I saw a reporter for the Cubs. I don't know. I didn't check their reputability other than clicking on their page and seeing that they had like 8,000 followers, and that was good enough for me. But they said that the Cubs were shocked that Shota Imanaga accepted the qualifying offer. They were planning on getting a pick back for him, and that it might impact his spending this offseason, which I have some thoughts on what I think is the dumbest move that we've seen in modern baseball from the Chicago Cubs this year. But we'll get to that once we get into that passing article. I found it right here. George Offman, half-century in sports media, including The Score, WGN, NPR. 6,000 followers.
Okay, he knows.
I think he's pretty reputable. Told the Cubs were stunned Imanaga accepted the qualifying offer. They expected to get a draft pick. Hampers their off-season spending plans. Hashtag major blunder.
I mean, why offer it if you're like, oh shit, he accepted it? Like, I understand that it's probably a little shocking that some of these guys took it. Like Brandon Woodruff, I'm not super surprised about just because of the
That's what I'm kind of surprised about.
Really?
Like, I understand the injury history and
Yeah.
stuff with Woodruff, but the upside is just so high on him. I would have thought somebody would have given him a multi-year deal just to be like, all right, can we do it? I also like, shout out George Offman, hashtag major blunder. At the end, he
So
tweeted
good.
like, he worded it like one of the 2K tweets that you see on the side on the social media page. Like, say what you have to say and then hashtag major blunder. Like, you would definitely see that on 2K.
Yeah, there's like the whatever NBA 2K trade and then like hashtag questionable move.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember it's one of
exactly.
them.
Yeah, hashtag big swing. Yeah, shout out George Elfman, new friend of the program.
Hey, if you want to come on, then we're
Yep.
we're available.
Welcome whenever. Trent Grisham was another one that I didn't realize he got offered the qualifying
hilarious.
offer. So fun. $22 million for Trent Grisham. Glaber Torres is another one. $22 million for Glabe. Huh.
Mhm.
It's like, all right. Like, so, yeah, I believe I'm not going to fact check this one because that already got us on the big Elfman train, but I believe this is the most players that have accepted the qualifying offer in a single offseason since it's been a thing.
I know,
Yeah.
like a year or two ago, the only guy who took it was like Nick Martinez.
Yeah, that was last year, I believe.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, which, like, again, $22 million for Nick Martinez.
Crazy.
Like, what are some of these teams doing, man? But of course, obviously, that attaches a draft pick to all these guys, so I'll just quickly run through them. All the declined: Bo Bichette, Dylan Cease, Edwin Diaz, Zach Gallen, Michael King, Kyle Schwarber, Ranger Suarez, Kyle Tucker, Framber Valdez.
All of which I think are guys who you shouldn't give a fuck about giving up a pick to sign them.
Yeah, I mean, I think Edwin Diaz is one that I would be like, yeah. Expect, like, I mean, given where you are, like, with Chapman already, like, I think you don't need to give up a pick for Edwin Diaz, especially given it's a pretty strong relief market in terms of free agents. So, like, I think you can get, and he's the only one with the QO. So I think if you're going to sign a QO guy, I think it's going to be, like, a bat, either Bichette, Schwarber. I was going to say Alonso. Alonso doesn't have it because of the option.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
I agree. I think if you're going to swing big, I mean, it's like Bregman last year, except you don't have Pavetta, where it's like, oh, we got the pick back, so let's sign Bregman. But this should be a year where they're all in, and whether or not that comes to fruition, I kind of flip-flop every day how confident I am in that happening, but it shouldn't matter at this point. You made the playoffs, you want to build on that. These picks shouldn't matter. You've built up your farm system enough at this point.
Yeah, and I have enough faith in the Red Sox system that they have, like, they can pick guys with what they have. Like, they can afford to give up a pick at the back end of the second round or whatever it would wind up being, maybe the back end of the fourth round for some of these guys. I'm not super sure what the qualifications are for, like, where you get what pick. I know it has to do with the luxury tax, but I don't know where that would fall. I guess we'll cross that bridge if the Red Sox sign one of these guys. It's just, and you had the extra pick from Quinn Priester last year. So you had one extra pick last year. You don't need the extra pick this year to not sign someone with a qualifying offer. Like, it's just, I understand why they do it, but it's not something that should be a deterrent to this team right now.
No, and I think there are teams where it may be more of a deterrent, some of those smaller market teams, but we've been saying this since the podcast started over a year ago now. You're the Boston Red Sox. Money should not be a concern, and giving up these picks shouldn't be a concern for the types of players or the types of value that these players can bring you.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, some of these smaller market teams aren't going to be in the mix for these bigger name guys. Although, according to Passan, the Pirates were supposedly kicking the tires on Kyle Schwarber, which to me only tells me one thing. It's that they got that same threat from the MLB or the MLBPA that the A's got last year before they went out and signed Luis Severino. We're like, you fucking assholes better start spending money or it's going to be bad news for you.
I mean, what does that even mean? Like, what could they possibly do?
They can file a grievance against them. I don't know exactly what that does, but they can file some sort of grievance and then go from there. But the baseball needs to, they're never going to do it without also establishing a salary cap, which I feel like I've made my thoughts on very clear. I could not hate that idea anymore. They need to establish like a 4-year spending floor the same way the NFL does.
It's pretty simple. Like, I just don't understand why, especially in a time where it feels like there's so much parity in baseball, there's still like 5 or 6 bottom of the barrel teams that will just never go out and spend the money until they turn over their ownership. I mean, it starts with the Pirates. It remains to be seen with the A's because I think the move to Vegas will encourage them to spend more.
Yeah.
But you got like the Marlins and
The Rays,
the Nationals. I mean, they're kind of rebuilding right now, but even still, like they're not
even the
swinging big.
Brewers.
Right.
Like, yeah, I agree. I bet people will push back on you in saying that there's parity because of the Dodgers.
Yeah, I guess. But even still, like you had the Mariners were a win away from the World Series, and they probably weren't even top 10 in payroll. So and the Brewers were in the NLCS as well, like you said. So there are those teams that can make a run that you may have not expected given their payrolls. And you kind of see that every year. I mean, even the Diamondbacks and I guess the Rangers don't really count because they went out.
Yeah,
and
they
spent.
shelled out big money.
But yeah, the Diamondbacks, I mean, you see it all the time. The Rays made that run in 2020, which I guess was sort of a Mickey Mouse run, but you see it probably once, maybe more than once a year.
Yeah, well, and I always push back on the Dodgers are ruining the sport. Like, okay, the Blue Jays had, the 6th highest payroll in baseball this year, and they were in the World Series. The Phillies were a really good team this year. The Red Sox were good. The Yankees were good. Like, it's not just the Dodgers spending money. Just because the Dodgers are better at it than everybody else doesn't mean that, they're ruining the game. And I guess I can, quickly get into this rant here. It's just, that type of shit really pisses me off because it's we need a salary cap because the Dodgers are ruining baseball. It's such a cop-out to the cheap owners. They're paying Ohtani, at $20 million, $20 a year until he's fucking 40, and then it ramps up to 30 mil. For luxury tax purposes, that counts. It's a lower number. It's not the AAV of whatever the deal is, 11 years, 700 million. It's not 70 million a year, but it's still 40 mil going to luxury tax. And also, you have to create a system in a team culture in which it makes sense for guys to defer money. It makes sense for guys to take less to come be here. We watched it with the Bruins for the last 15 years where it was, Patrice Bergeron just took less to stick around. I'm Brad Marchand. I'm going to take less to stick around. I'm David Pasternak. I'm going to take less to stick around. We'll get into it when we get into David Bruin's breakdown. But that Pasta contract is going to look like one of the most team-friendly deals in the entire league in a year and a half at 11.25. You have to set up that type of culture in your locker room where guys are willing to say, okay, I'm going to make less money right now. I might make less money overall, but later down the line, I'm going to get this deferred money. It's not like any of these guys are hurting either.
Right.
Shohei is going to be just okay making 20 mil a year, and then in fucking 30 years, making his 40 mil a year. It pisses me off when they say that. It's not just the Dodgers ruining the sport. Look at all the guys that they dipped into, that they developed, that when all the guys that they paid for went down, came in and filled roles admirably for them. Ben Kasparius was the front runner for Rookie of the Year at one point, and he fell off a cliff. Look at what Emmett Sheehan did for them down the stretch and into the playoffs. They also develop really well.
I agree, and I think it starts with both of those things, and that's what I feel like the Red Sox are trying to become. It's taken them a bit longer than I would have expected, but that was the whole premise in bringing in Chaim Bloom in the first place, was to build up their farm system so they could be a sustainable winner. And now it comes down to, will they spend the money? Are these free agents going to buy into their plans of, hey, we're going to compete for a long time? And I think that's what brought Alex Bregman in last year. And I hope that's what's going to make him stay past just last year. But we'll see how that ends up. I just think you're in a prime spot to contend. I still look at the American League as wide open as ever. You had the Blue Jays, who went from, what were they, 4th place last year? Maybe even last place in the division.
Yeah, 4th or last.
And they made the World Series. They came a win away from winning the entire thing. So a lot can change in one offseason, and it's just about how you approach it. And the Red Sox are in prime position to attack this offseason. It's just, we haven't seen this from Craig Breslow. Last year, I guess you can say, yeah, they spent the money, but it was only a 3-year deal, and obviously Bregman ended up opting out, and then you made the big Crochet trade. They have the capability to do a lot more than that this offseason, and I refuse to believe it until I see it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there are a bunch of people being like, oh, well, the Red Sox can't spend like the Dodgers. They can't spend like the Mets. Says who?
John Henry.
They're the Boston Red Sox. John Henry has a net worth of $5.7 billion. The Red Sox in 2024 made $574 million, the fourth most in the entire sport. They only spent $242 million of that on their roster. 0.1% of the money they made went back into the roster this year. Frankly, that is completely unacceptable. You want to know what the Mets made in 2024? $44 million, and they put in $400 million into their roster and missed the playoffs. The Dodgers are an anomaly. They made $750 million in 2024, but spent $550 on their payroll.
That's insane.
Like 73%. The Blue Jays, third, they made $387 million, 13th most revenue in baseball, spent $277 of it on their payroll. That's what teams that are committed to winning do. They spend the money that they make on the team. And even like John Henry doesn't even need to spend the money he makes on the team. He has more than enough money to go out and spend with the big dogs. He just chooses not to. This list I'm looking at right now from Brooksgate, I don't know if you've heard of that Twitter account, Brooksgate, has them 23rd in the percentage that they took from their revenue and put it into their payroll next year. And I said I was going to get on a rant about the Cubs. The Cubs are number 26 on this list. They had the third most revenue in baseball in 2024, $584 million, and their payroll for the season was only $213 million, 36% of what they made.
And they're probably not bringing back Kyle Tucker. Like, I haven't seen any rumors of
No,
that
they're
at all.
not. Passon, in that article that we're going to get to, said that the Cubs aren't expected to meet the price tag of Kyle Tucker.
That's insane. Like, why trade for him for 1 year of Kyle Tucker and then just be like, you're good. I mean, they have the Q.
That's actually exactly what my rant is about. I think that's one of the dumbest moves in maybe the last 15 to 20 years of baseball.
I mean, I guess the Yankees did the same thing with Soto.
Yeah, but at least the Yankees went to the World Series and were also at the final table with Soto.
True.
At least the Yankees were willing to be like, all right, here's the money, we want to bring you back. Sounds like the Cubs are largely disinterested in bringing back Kyle Tucker.
For no reason. I mean, they have no
none at all.
Plan.
No, none at all. They traded they traded Cam Smith for Tucker,
right,
and then Smith immediately slotted in right field for the Astros. So they don't even have that.
So silly. It's that makes no sense to me. It happens more often than you'd think. I feel like even the Padres, when they traded for Soto, I mean, they're in cap hell right now just because of Xander Bogaerts and that overpay, which will haunt them for the next, what is it now, 8 years?
Yeah, 8
However
or 9.
many it is. That's just a tough deal that they're going to have to find their way out of. And now you have Mason Miller. What does that look like in a potential extension? I know he's got a bunch of years left to control, but at some point that's going to catch up to you. A lot of these teams make poor financial decisions, and some of these bigger market teams can just work around it, like the Dodgers or some of the Yankees. I mean, Trent Grisham, they'll probably find some way to work around that, but I just don't know.
At least with the Padres, they had the thing where Seidler was getting ready to die and he wanted to win a World Series. And then obviously they gave up a haul for Soto, but at the time he still had 3 years of team control left when they traded for him, and they were able to flip him for a decent return. I won't say that it was a fantastic return, but it was okay in terms of what they got. I mean, obviously they get Michael King, who is now a free agent, and we'll get to him later, but the Cubs are actually just going to let him walk for nothing. They're going to get the 60th pick in the draft for Kyle Tucker after giving up a guy that they used their first rounder on, and then Isaac Paredes, who I don't think was built for their park, but still you definitely could have gotten more value for him than 1 year of Kyle Tucker if you knew you weren't going to re-sign him. That's what it just keeps coming back to for me. How do you make this trade and not go, if you're Jed Hoyer, how do you not go to Tom Ricketts and go, hey man, I'm going to trade for Kyle Tucker, but he's going to be like $350 to extend. But if we're going to pull off a move like this, we got to extend him. How do you not get yep, we're ready to go in terms of extending him before you pull the trigger on that trade? And Cam Smith didn't light the world on fire this year by any stretch of the imagination. It was his first full professional season of baseball. This is a guy they drafted a year ago and then immediately traded for Kyle Tucker. There's no way that ROI was good enough to get bounced in the second round by the Brewers. To get not even bounced, to get fucking smoked in the second round by the Brewers.
And then the thing with the QO with Imanaga. Like, what, you expected him to just walk? And I understand that it's kind of weird for these guys to be taking the QO when there's an impending lockout next offseason. So
Yeah.
what does that look like? But I mean, Imanaga's your ace. He's only getting older. So for him, it's also like, why would you take that when this could have been one of your last chances to cash in? But now your roster construction really makes no sense. And if you're not going to go out and spend to fix that, then you're looking at a bottom of the barrel team in a bad division.
Yeah, and I mean it's kind of a little bit like what we saw with the Red Sox for however many years, where Tom Ricketts can look at it and say, "Shit, like what was the number I just gave for the money they made? $584 million. I know we're gonna make like a top 5 revenue in baseball because in the summer there's nothing people in Chicago like doing more than going to Wrigley, getting hammered in the bleachers, and then going out to all the bars that Ricketts also owns. Like Ricketts owns all the bars in Wrigleyville too. Yeah, this guy has like that's where people like post college go to live too. So like when I graduated college, we immediately were like, oh, where are we going to move? And we were all like, all right, well, we'll just move somewhere in Wrigley. And that's where I lived for 2 years after that. This guy has the greatest monopoly of all time on an entire area. The neighborhood is named after the ballpark, similarly to the way Fenway is named after Fenway. And this guy just doesn't spend the money on it. And I'm sure that the lines outside of every one of these bars after Cubs games is astronomical. Tom Ricketts is making money hand over fist and fucking these poor pink hat Cubs fans.
That was Talking Cubs.
Yep.
On a Red Sox podcast. I love it. I love the tangents we get on sometimes.
It's just it really is one of the biggest blunders ever. To like I said, like at least with the Yankees and Soto, they were at the final table, like ready to pony up the money to bring him back, and they went to the World Series with him. Like I said, the Cubs are just completely disinterested in bringing back their best player because they have Owen Casey waiting in the wings. And like Owen Casey's a fine prospect. I think he's going to be a decent MLB player. He's not going to be like what his 100th percentile outcome is Kyle Tucker.
Right.
And you also had to give up Cam Smith, another piece of your future, to get the 1 year of Kyle Tucker to get bounced in the second round. It truly is one of the more confounding moves I've seen in recent history.
Not to mention bringing in Craig Counsell on the most expensive manager deal ever, only for Pat Murphy to manage circles around him his first 2 years with the Brewers is crazy.
Well, in why spend the money on a top of the market manager if you're not going to spend the money on the top of the market roster? Like, I guess if you're looking at it, be like, all right, well, we're paying our manager $7 million. That's top of the market for that. I'd rather do that than give Kyle Tucker $40 million. Let's hope our $7 million manager can make it work with a lesser roster because we're paying him so much. Like, maybe that's a thought process, but yeah, it's confusing 2 seasons for the Chicago Cubs.
Yeah, well, speaking of GMs, we did have the GM meetings. It was probably like a week and a half ago now.
Yeah, they really should change the name of those. It's no longer the general manager meetings. Right. It's the president of baseball operations or the chief baseball officer or this or that. Or
Which by the way, before we get into this, I feel like I'm the only one who remembers Craig Breslow being like, hey, we want to hire an actual GM this offseason. And then Paul Taboni left, and now they're just like, well, now we're not going to because they wanted him to be the GM. Like, how does that make any sense?
Which exactly, like, it flies directly in the face of what we were saying, where we wanted it to be someone outside the organization. Like, yeah, I don't really know what, like, I'm sure, and they've had so much brain drain from the organization, so I'm sure they're kind of reeling on that front. Like, they lost Justin Willard to be the pitching coach for the Mets. They lost a bunch of people to Paul Taboni. I'm sure there are a dozen other examples that I'm blanking on of people leaving the organization. So I wonder if that kind of left them reeling a little bit, but like even that would be all the more reason to be like, all right, let's expedite this process and kind of get our shit together. And like, obviously it's been not slow developing because we're still so early in the off season, but things haven't really gotten moving yet, aside from a deal here and there. And then some like, we'll get into them, the trades along the peripherals, but like we said, I wish they would be kind of speeding things up a little bit on that front.
I know it makes no sense, and I mean
we haven't heard about it at all either.
No, like no one's asked them about it. I don't feel like we've heard nothing since Craig Breslow was just like, by the way, we're trying to find an actual GM. So is it happening? I mean, we already have Josh Naylor is already staying with the Mariners, so there are deals happening. There's some questionable trades happening too. So and this is what I said before, like you have to move quickly. You don't want to fall behind. If they're still looking for a GM and people are already signing with teams, this is bad.
Yeah, I think it helps that both guys that are both prominent names that have signed have re-signed.
Right.
Raisel Iglesias back to the Braves, Naylor back to the Mariners. But yeah, like things are starting to move. So I just don't know what they're waiting for. Like what is the sense of hiring a GM in January?
I know.
Like once everything's already been done.
Hey, you're coming in for spring training, like JD
Yeah.
Martinez.
Yeah, literally. So I don't know, like maybe it's literally just something where like he thinks he's got the off season down pat, but he needs the help like in season deadline, stuff like that.
Maybe.
I don't know, but I wish somebody would, and if somebody did, I missed it, so
Me too.
apologies, but I wish somebody would have just, like, he met with the media, 3 times at the GM meetings,
Yeah,
and
none of
not
that
one,
was asked.
and maybe, like, that's just not a newsy quote, so maybe, like, I didn't see any audio of Breslow talking, so maybe that did get asked, but it wasn't like, oh, like, he said they're gonna get a middle-of-the-order bat, and a number 2 to pitch next to Crochet, and some people were calling the quotes Dombrowski, and I didn't really see that, but
I mean, it depends if he follows through on it. If he follows through on it, then I'm willing to say that. But it's like you can call your shots as much as you want. I just have to see it.
yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, we can get into these comments from the GM meetings. What did you want to start with?
Might as well just start with the top of starting pitching.
Okay, so yeah, we kind of mentioned it before. Breslow mentioned that they feel good with their depth, basically starters 3 through 10. And he was like, he made sure to note that some of these pitchers are capable of doing more than that. I think he mainly meant Brian Bayo. We'll see if any of these other guys develop.
Totally in early too.
Yeah,
I think we're in that.
I think that'll be more of a slow burn, especially for Tolley. But the main thing he said is they want a starter to pitch next to Garrett Crochet. And we've known this. It feels good to hear him confirm that, but it doesn't really change anything for me. Like, I knew, and most Red Sox fans knew that they needed a number 2 starter, but I guess it is kind of good to hear him say it.
Yeah, and it he said the same thing before the deadline, and what did he got Dustin May. So like I'm kind of just in a scenario where I need to see it. Like, all right, Craig, like let's do it. Like you said, he said, I have the quote here: starting pitching, and particularly someone we feel can start alongside or slot in behind Garrett and start a playoff game. Because of the depth we've built up over the last couple of years, we feel pretty good overall about starting pitching in numbers 3-ish through 10-ish. That's not to take away from guys who are certainly capable of doing more. It's just to say I don't think we're going to spend a ton of time trying to add a number 4 or a number 5 starter. I'll stop there to say that I don't like that. I've been on the bandwagon that I think you need to add 2 starters this offseason. Doesn't sound like they're particularly keen on doing that. We're going to give our initial roster predictions for the offseason later in this one. And I still have them adding 2 starters. I think they need to add 2 starters. I feel like they're going to be a much better team if they have 3. It doesn't have to be like, we'll get to the names that I get to, but it doesn't have to be 2 guys that are going to knock your socks off. But I do think that pushing everyone down 2 spots and getting a number 2, a number 3/4, and then kind of having a bunch of guys, like I'll jump ahead to my prediction for the number 5 starter spot. Just having Cutter Crawford, Patrick Sandoval, Hunter Dobbins, Richard Fitz, etc., kind of duking it out for that 5th starter spot. With, in this prediction, I had Bayo as the 4. Like, I just think you're a much deeper team if you do something like that. I don't know if you have anything on that, or I can keep reading.
No, I mean, honestly, I'm kind of okay with the depth they have. I just think if you're going to bring in a starter, it has to be a number 2. And if you bring in a 4 or 5, great. But I think their focus needs to be, for a majority of the offseason, how do we find that guy to pitch alongside Crochet?
Yeah, and like I'm okay with the depth that they have. That's not to say like, oh, like Cutter Crawford sucks, or which I kind of think he does, but or Patrick Sandoval stinks. Like we haven't seen Patrick Sandoval pitch in 2 years. He was pretty good for the Angels the last time we saw him, but is that a guy that you're willing to bank on? Hunter Dobbins now we've seen go down twice. Richard Fitz, we've seen go down twice. Connolly Early, I still think is a work in progress. We've been over the Cooper Criswell thing over and over and over again. He's a fine depth piece, but he's not a guy that I'm super comfortable slotting in every 5th day to be your number 5 starter. Peyton Tolley is a big time work in progress.
Right.
Like, I just think that they'll be much better off if they give a guy another deal. And like, ultimately, we're going to find ourselves at the deadline looking for a starter anyways. So why not just go out and get that extra starter now, especially when the cost of acquisition is going to be so much lower. Like right now, I have one trade and one signing. So all it's going to cost you is money to get another guy. And like when we get to that guy, like I have the quote from Passan with what he's expected to land in terms of deal. Like it's a very, like, it's compared to Nathan Eovaldi's 3-year, $75 million deal. Like if that's all it's going to cost you to get even more certainty at your rotation and push everyone down a little bit, like what they used 17 different starters this year. All of these guys are going to get used next year, and you're probably still going to find yourself in a scenario where you're looking for a starter at the deadline.
I agree. I mean, you can never have too many arms, and we saw that last year. Like you said, they pitched like 17 starters, and
Yeah,
even still at the end of the year, it felt like they didn't have enough.
they didn't.
Right. But oh man, like it's just that this free agent class is so full of starters, and I think there's going to be a ton of suitors out there for a handful of guys. So not all those teams have the same ammunition for a potential trade, and I think the Red Sox have already kicked the tires on that. Obviously, with Joe Ryan, didn't work out. You got Dustin May and Steven Matz instead. But could we see them revisit that? I don't know. The Twins GM at the GM meetings was like wild in here. He's like, we want to build around Joe Ryan now all of a sudden, and now it seems like they're more likely to trade Pablo Lopez, which, sure, give him to me. I don't care. I really don't care which one of these guys you get, but it's
But
like,
then, and you also have Byron Buxton being like, I want out, I want to win.
Yeah.
So it's like, which one is it?
yeah, they're a disaster over there. Like, I don't know what the hell they're doing. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me, but there could be an avenue where you can make a couple different trades. I really think this offseason, you have to clear the logjam. I mean, I know we've talked about that time and time again, and I think this finally will be the offseason where we see that happen, but could you even trade two of these guys? Like, that's not out of the question. Maybe
All
you get
three.
two starters. Yeah,
All
three.
three.
Sure.
Get rid of all of them.
Sure.
Like, I think I texted you this one, the Taylor Ward trade went down with that. If that's the going price, trade all three and bring me Kyle Tucker.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's actually what they should do if they could do something like that. Like, if 1 year of Taylor Ward is fetching you 5 seasons of a guy who was the top pitching prospect in baseball 2 years ago, like, I still do think there would need to be certainty in a deal like that. Like, if you were trading, say, Jarren Duran for a Cole Reagans type, like, I still would like to see a little bit more certainty, because Reagans, we've only seen it for 1 season,
Right.
and then he was hurt for most, if not all, of last year. But like why not? Like, if that's the going rate, like, strike while the iron's hot. Like,
I agree.
you have all of this outfield surplus and more coming. Like, it sounds like Christian Campbell's an outfielder. You have Justinson Garcia, who's an outfielder. Like, you have more than enough outfield depth to trade 2 or 3 of these guys.
And it shouldn't be difficult. Like, I don't know why they're so hesitant to move these guys. Like, it really came up in the trade deadline too. Like, we thought they were this was before the deadline, right? When the password got called up, or am I tripping? Might have been
Right
after.
around then. I think it was after.
But regardless, like, we thought that was kind of a call up just to showcase him and be like, hey, he's very available. Like, please.
And then they didn't
call
play
on
him at all.
Right. He got like 1 double and then dipped. But
Yeah, they didn't, like, they just had him ride the pine. He was up for like a week and a half, and he got like 3 starts maybe.
But I mean, at a certain point, like, this core is building. Like, you really don't have spots for a lot of these guys. That's why I think maybe we could see more than one outfielder move, because I don't see them moving on from Christian Campbell. And I think the Christian Campbell believers are dwindling by the day. But I'm going down with the ship regardless.
I am as well. Yeah.
I don't see him getting moved. And if you're going to
With
give
the
him an
contract,
actual
it'd be
opportunity-
tough.
Right. And if you're going to give him an actual opportunity, you have to play him every day. Like, I'm just tired of this. Oh, we need to platoon these guys. And obviously he's a righty, so it doesn't matter as much. We've kind of gotten all over the place here, but that's where I'm at with Campbell.
Yeah, no, and I guess this was going to be my final thoughts. It sounds like Campbell's put the weight back on that he lost already, so that's good to see. He's going to have a relatively normal offseason. Hopefully they can work on some endurance stuff. I wonder if Jarren Duran, while he's still here, is a guy that he can kind of lean on in terms of trying to figure out how to sustain the weight, how to sustain being able to play a full 162 game season without losing some of your power, because we know from Duran's interviews, either on Section 10 or just on any other number of interviews that he's done before, that's something he struggled with at first. I mean, obviously we remember 2021, 2020, Jaren Duran, this scrawny little guy that didn't look like he was going to be able to sustain play, and for a while he wasn't able to. But I mean, aside from one, I was going to call it a misstep, it was a lot worse than a misstep in 2024. Aside from one slur at a fan,
Yeah, what do you even call
he would have
that?
played, one suspension, we'll call it, because that's what it was, a suspension. He would have played a full 162, and then he played like 150 games this year.
Something like that.
Yeah, so this is a guy that's turned his body into something really durable and able to hold up as a solid player. Like, I wouldn't go as far as say he's a good player, but he's a solid player, and he was struggling with kind of that maintaining weight throughout the beginning of his career. So if this is someone that the team is going to maybe hold on to, because I don't think it's a shoo-in that they trade him for sure or Willier for sure, but if this is a guy that they're going to say we're going to hang on to, he has to be a leader on this team. He has to be the guy that Alex Cora for the last however many years said, when I tell my kids how to play baseball, I tell them to play it like Jaren Duran. Like, he's going to have to assume this leadership role, and what better way to assume that type of leadership role than be like, oh, you're struggling with the same thing I was struggling with. Here's what I did. And that's not to say that I think Christian Campbell's going to show up with biceps the size of my head like Jaren Duran did, but I think that's something that he can glean from.
I agree. And it's a question of whether or not Duran is still on the team. Like, I lean towards they're going to move on from him. He seems like sort of the odd man out if they are to clear up this logjam. But the more and more I think about it, the more I'm like, let's just trade both of them, to be honest with you.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Like, eventually, if you're not going to trust Willier to face lefties, then I think you just need to move on from them.
There's
both.
also durability concerns. Like, I know he won the Gold Glove both this year and last year, but at a certain point, I don't care about your defense if you're not on the field for, it doesn't have to be 162, but like, give me 145, something like that. Like, he's not an everyday player at this point.
And I think it also helps that Roman was so good in right field.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting Roman to be a left fielder long term. I think a lot of people were expecting him to be a left fielder long term. But playing predominantly right field for the Red Sox last year, he was a 6 outs above average. So, like, that's more than, that's more. And obviously, he doesn't qualify for the percentages, but it looks to be about 8th percentile, give or take.
That'll
just
play.
Eyeballing it. So, so that's perfectly passable in right field at Fenway. That's good at Fenway in right field. So, if you can get a good enough offer, and even like, I don't think Rafaela should be off the table. Like, I think that we kind of rode the roller coaster with Ceddanne Rafaela last year, where he's maybe the clutchest player on the team, but like also he might also be the dumbest player on the team. But obviously, I got into the rant in the wild card. Like, he has the worst bunt attempt, 2 worst bunt attempts I've ever seen in my life, and then is hitting the 5-hole the next day. So you don't trust him to swing away in a key spot, and then in a winner go home game, he's in the 5-hole. Like, I don't know, like at a certain point, like, the defense is great and all, but as the lineup is currently constructed, you can't get away with having a guy like Ceddanne Rafaela in there every day. If they go out there and they add some more pop and they add some more certainty, which is the word I continue to come back to over and over and over again when talking about this team, then fine, you can have Ceddanne Rafaela in the 9-hole giving you platinum glove caliber defense, which I don't even want to say platinum glove caliber defense anymore because it's a fan vote, so it's all just a sham. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense at all. And big surprise, the Royal won it. Like, oh, in Kansas City, Missouri, they have nothing better to do than sit there and spend their days filling up the ballot box with their whatever Royal wants to win whatever award. Like, back in the day, the All-Star game, yes. That's exactly what I was about to say.
Escobar, your starting shortstop for the American League.
Yeah, that was something. And now Bobby Witt, looks like Bobby Witt's a really good defender at shortstop, but to say that he deserved the platinum glove is just not smart at all. And like Tatis won it on the other side. And like, again, he's a really good defensive right fielder, but Pete Crow Armstrong is like a Ceddanne Rafaela level outfielder.
Right.
And he's, even PCA said that Rafaela was the best outfielder he's seen in the league. So, like, yeah, like, all that to say, I'm not married to any three of the outfielders. Like I said, I think there's a world where I would trade all three of them.
Yeah. So moving on in Breslow's comments to the middle of the order bat, is it kind of pissed me off. I know we've beat this drum probably way more than we should have, but he's like, ah, man, we were really missing the pop later in the year last year. We really need someone who can improve our slugging percentage. And it's like, Craig, we had that guy. I don't know if you know. You moved him on Father's Day. You moved him halfway through the season.
Not even.
It just didn't make up for that production at all. And now he's like, guys, we were really missing slug. I don't know how we can fix this, but it was just infuriating to hear this. And I know the full quote makes more sense, but it's still like, dude, what are we talking about?
Yeah, well, I can read it. I don't want to get so anchored to this idea that the only way to score runs is home runs. We showed that isn't the case. That said,
are you sure about that?
Yeah, right. That said, a disproportionate number of runs in the postseason are scored via the home run, and that's not something we can ignore. In a perfect world, I would suppose we would want to balance out the lineup a bit with a righty. That said, I think when you can hit the ball out of the park, it doesn't really matter. I think we have found that lefties can use the wall. Wonder who did that really well. Pretty much better than every other lefty not named David Ortiz. And create a good offensive environment. Righties who can pull the ball in the air can do the same thing. There are a number of different ways for us to improve our slug, but I think this idea that we can do more damage on balls in play is certainly a correct one.
Mm-hmm.
I read that quote and wanted to gouge my eyes out. Like, you have got to be kidding me, too.
Where is the feel?
You have got to be shitting me.
It just makes no sense.
Like you said, I think we've beat this horse to death on the Rafael Devers front, but there's just no way that he can sit there with a straight face and be like, yeah, we'd really love to add some more pop. It doesn't have to, ideally it's a righty, but if we can find a lefty that knows how to use the wall, we can really, that's all I can say is, dude, we can have a little bit of, oh my God. And not to mention, so what? We're going to go out there, we're going to give Pete Alonso 5 years, $125+ million, 5 years, $150 million. Who knows what the market's going to look like when it's all said and done. Kyle Schwarber, same thing, $30 million AAV. Bo Bichette, who knows? I wouldn't even classify him as a guy who can hit the ball out of the park. I think if you're going to get Bo Bichette, which we'll get into that report from Bradfo, then it has to come with a power bat as well. Rafael Devers in 2026 made $27 million. You're telling me you're going to get a better player than Rafael Devers for less than $27 million? There's only one player that's a free agent right now, hitter, that's a better player than Rafael Devers, and it's Kyle Tucker. And as much as I want to dream about him being in the same outfield as Roman Anthony, I think he's a Blue Jay. So, it's more than tone deaf to sit here and go, we're looking for a lefty that can drive the ball out of the park and use the wall, or a righty that can pull the ball, but it doesn't have to be a righty. You're going to spend more money and if it's Pete Alonso, guess what you just did? You just signed a more expensive, older, worse DH. That's all you've done. All you've done is move the pieces around to get a tool that fucking deadlifts in the middle of the home run derby. I will be... My God, like I said, we've beat this Devers horse to death, but there's just no way that was the quote. It's beyond tone deaf.
It's so funny. We all knew that they needed a middle of the order bat. Part of me is like, okay, thanks for spelling it out for us. But the way he went about it was just so, like you said, tone deaf. It just makes no sense to be like, yeah, we were really feeling the lack of homers, the lack of pop in this lineup. I mean, watching the product on the field after the Devers trade, I could have told you from day one, this team is not going to hit enough homers. And they didn't.
You didn't even need to watch the product. You just needed to look at the lineup and be like, where is the pop coming from here?
Yeah, nowhere.
Yeah. And the only thing that would have made it funnier is if he was like, yeah, we play the Yankees a lot. They're our rival. Obviously they're the team that eliminated us. We see them in the playoffs a decent. We're looking for a guy that just really crushes the New York Yankees.
Yeah, more specifically Garrett Cole.
Yeah. Like, I feel like even the people, like, obviously, because Red Sox Twitter is kind of split into two factions, the people like us that will never shut up about Rafael Devers, and then other people that are like, we need to move on. Like, and I do agree we need to move on. Like, he's not coming back. So, like, complaining that they're going to get a worse player. It's like, I don't want them to not sign Pete Alonso because they traded Rafael Devers. They need to sign a guy like that now because they traded Rafael Devers. I would just rather have Rafael Devers. That's my main point. But I think even all those people that are like, all right, Devers is gone, let's move on, were like, had the same reaction as us. Like, you got to be shitting me too.
Yeah, but regardless, I mean, it's more than I would have expected, like, more honesty than I would have expected from Craig Breslow, because every single time he talks, it's basically just like you're talking to Chat GPT. So at least he was outward about what the team needs, albeit it was pretty obvious what they needed, but at least he spelled it out for us, and now it's just a question of, can he do it? But we did see a couple trades. Most of them were kind of just by the margins for Rule 5 purposes.
Yeah, it was mostly just clearing 40-man spots.
Yeah, the only one, like, I can go through all of them. Some of them, the names may be questionable, but the first one was Luis Guerrero was traded to the Rays. This is the one that pisses me off. For third baseman Tristan Gray. It's not to say that I'm, like, bummed that Luis Guerrero's gone. I'm more bummed that he went to the Rays because they're going to turn him into, like, prime. I'm trying to think of a closer. I mean, Aroldis Chapman from last year. Sure, we can go with that. I guess he wasn't prime, but like they're going to turn him into something. I mean, we've seen this time and time again happen with Jeffrey Springs. It happened with I mean, Jalen Beeks wasn't great, but I mean, they turn him into
That's
something.
like the one that they got on top of
Mhm.
the Rays for. They got Evaldi, obviously. But
Right.
yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Like Tristan Gray, a guy who's going to be on the bottom of your roster. Like he's a guy who's going to churn through. He gives you some utility, but like you already have a bunch of guys that can play a bunch of different positions. Like to me, like there were other ways to trim these 40-man spots than Luis Guerrero, who they just didn't let throw his fastball. Like that's what it came down to. Like Luis Guerrero showed flashes and it was always with his fastball. And then whenever he got rocked, it was on something else. So like it's a guy that I don't love seeing them give up on, a guy that I thought had some pretty good potential and pretty decent stuff to kind of carve out a role in this bullpen, but obviously they didn't see it that way. Like at the end of the day, I'm not going to get too bent out of shape about Luis Guerrero. It's just like, all right, man, like I think there were better ways that we could have trimmed 40-man spots.
I agree. The next one I have here is traded. He's a pitcher, right? Alex Hoppy for to the Mariners for catcher Luke Heyman. I know nothing about him. Sure, some catching depth is good.
Yeah, I also knew nothing about Luke Heyman when they made the trade. I also knew little to nothing about Alex Hoppy, but it seems like this is the deal that is the most popular amongst the prospect nerds like myself. Heyman was, I believe it was a 12th round pick, but he got 8th round money coming out of Florida. Obviously a catcher, so it's a position that when you look up and down the farm system, it's pretty thin besides Johan Fran Garcia, obviously the username. But it's a pretty thin position. It looked like he grew up. I'm trying to find the picture right now. Like he knows Roman Anthony somehow. I'm also trying to find the scouting report on him. Here it is. Yeah. Heyman was a 14th round pick from the Mariners last summer. He hasn't made his professional debut yet. He was at Florida where he slashed 301, 397, 578, good for a 975 OPS in 49 games with the Gators in 2025. Yeah, like I said, 8th rounder. He was number 127 on Baseball America's big board. So yeah, I don't think it's anything like crazy. I found the picture. It's some Team USA prospects game at Coors Field.
Cool.
Roman is in a picture with Luke Heyman. So I don't know if they're boys or what. Luke grew up, Robert Heyman. Who is this? Is this his dad? This looks like his dad. Luke grew up following the Sox. This is such a great move for him. Our whole family is so happy for him. The Sox just got their next stud catcher. Yeah, like we'll see where he slots in. I don't believe that Sox Prospects has done any type of prospect ranking update. I mean, like I said, I traded Alex Hoppy for him. I can't imagine this is any type of like groundbreaking deal in terms of like gaining some prospect capital, but I think that's the best one they've made.
Okay, the next one is, this one was a little surprising to me. I know they kind of played with his service or his options all throughout this season and last season, but Everyday Bernie, Brennan Bernardino was traded to basically hell because he got sent to the
Yeah.
Rockies in exchange for outfielder Braden Ward. I
Don't know anything about him. Yeah.
Me
Yeah, I
neither.
think that's another nothing deal.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised by this because now I think you need you need another lefty in your bullpen. Like,
Yeah.
you traded 2 of them. Like, we'll get into the Chris Murphy trade, but again, that's another, like, kind of whatever trade. But, like, for a guy in Bernie who did literally whatever you wanted him to do, you wanted him to open, you wanted him to close a game, sure. You wanted him to open the very next one, sure. Like, he was just like everyday Bernie. Like, he was a guy that was willing to go out there and throw until his arm fell off. Not to mention the great story, working his way up from indie ball, like, just came from nothing, was willing to grind, and, like, it sucks that, like you said, they had to send him to the depths of hell. Like, not only does he have to go to a historically bad team, but he also has to pitch in Coors Field.
I know.
So, yeah, sucks. I hate to see him go, and it also opens up a pretty big hole in terms of lefties in the bullpen. Also, I have it pulled up. Alex Hoppe was number 38 on the SP Top 60 in their latest update. So I would guess that Heyman is probably slotting somewhere between 30 and 45.
Okay. And when you were talking about Bernardino's story, it kind of reminded me of the Cam Boozer trade from last year, which is a similar, like, they sent him to hell. They sent him to the White Sox. And speaking of the White Sox, they traded Chris Murphy to the White Sox in exchange for another catcher, Ronnie Hernandez, who I know nothing about as well.
Yeah, I saw Ronnie Hernandez's stats. Doesn't look like he's anything special. I think this one was, like, strictly just trying to clear out a 40-man spot, and they figured that Murphy would probably get claimed, so it's just kind of grabbing whatever you can for him. I saw people being like, oh, well, the last time, people being Milliken, the last time the Red Sox traded a lefty reliever, like you said, Cam Boozer, to the White Sox, they got, I'm going to butcher this name, Yoiker Fajardo.
Sounds right.
Yeah, obviously he came into the system number, like, just outside the top 60. I believe he's all the way up to number 11, but that was a 18-year-old pitcher at the time of acquisition, so that was much more of a lottery ticket than catcher who can't hit the ball out of the park. Like, again, I think that was just something where organizationally they looked up and down all their minor league rosters and were like, fuck, we got to get some catchers in here. Like, we saw Nathan Hickey getting reps at catcher, and that just, like, and even, like, when you look at AAA, like, look at the squad, like, the clown car of journeyman quad A players that they brought in to catch in Worcester. Blake Sable, Sebi Zavala, they brought in Yasmani Grandal for a minute. like they just needed to get some catcher depth in the organization.
And a lot of these are respectfully, like, kind of nothing guys. Like, Bernardino, I exclude from that category, but the other 3, I'm like, whatever. They could have been
Quad A
something.
players.
You're right. And I'm all for moving on from Quad A players if it helps you in the long run.
Yeah.
Some other moves, they non-tendered is the right term for Nathaniel Lowe, right? Not DFA'd.
I think don't you have to get DFA'd to be non-tendered?
Potentially. Well, yeah, either way, they are not going to give him that extra gear. Same with Josh Winkowski, which I am just
Rip Bozo.
Totally shaken up about. I don't know what to do. I called my family about it. I don't know how to react. Josh
It was Hibachi all over again.
They ruined Hibachi for me again. Yeah.
The Lowe was DFA'd.
Okay, yeah. And I remember Josh Winkowski, like, during the season, put something on Instagram. It was like him with a beer can and, like, a pack of Zins, and the caption was "injured and useless," and that could not be more true.
Even when he was healthy, he could have posted a picture of him on the mound at Fenway and just captioned it "useless," and it would have been all the same.
Happy trails. Wasn't he in the Benintendi trade?
Yes.
So, yeah, maybe that's the last piece left of that deal. But thanks for your lack of service, I guess, and good riddance. But Nathaniel Lowe, I think, his Linsanity run, I do want to give him a little bit of credit for that. Obviously, he fell back down to earth in a big way, could not continue that level of production, and ultimately it just became, we need someone better at first base.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily even think that we can rule out a Lowe-Vaughn reunion. It was just that the arbitration number was going to be like $15 million for a year, and it's just like you're just not giving Nathaniel Lowe $15 million in arbitration. So like I do think that there is something that there is like a possibility, depending on what they bring in, that Lowe comes back just at a much lower hit than $15 million or whatever the arbitration number was looking like. Like I think when a lot of people looked at the roster and looked at the ways that they could either trim some money and find it to spend elsewhere or optimize the roster a little bit better, they had a non-tender / DFA, or not a possibility, but like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but as something that was like more likely to happen than not, I guess I would say. Like, I mean, we were talking about Tanner Houck potentially getting non-tendered to shave off some money. Like, obviously they've come out and said that that's not going to happen, but I think like when you're talking about like, oh, like could they do it with Tanner Houck? Like, sure, potentially, but they also have Nathaniel Lowe, who's due for a massive pay bump in arbitration.
Yeah. It just, I didn't see a world where that was going to happen. And I know we talked about it briefly when he was on that 2-week Linsanity run, but I mean, since the fall off, I was like, there's no shot they give him that 15 mil or whatever it was. But they also added a couple people to their 40-man roster, and that is Shane Drohan, David Sandlin, and Tyler Uberstein, who all of which were pretty regarded prospects. I know, didn't Drohan switch teams in the Rule 5 draft? Was he with the White Sox and then ultimately came back?
Yeah, this was those guys. Those were the three they protected from the Rule 5. Yeah, Drohan correcting the mistake. Well, mistakes being relative, because I believe it was Breslow's first season here. His first Rule 5 draft, he left Drohan, who at the time was regarded as one of the top pitching prospects in the entire organization, unprotected. He went to the White Sox. He was bad, and then his elbow exploded, and then he was sent back when he was healthy. He kind of started to figure some things out here at the end of last season, finally coming back from another injury. So I was a little bit surprised to see him protected, but I have to imagine that they have this kind of intel that's like, okay, if we leave Drohan unprotected again, he's going to get picked. Sandlin seemed like the biggest slam dunk one to get added to me. He was a guy that even if he's like, look at Garrett Whitlock, look at Justin Slayton, like guys that are effectively major league ready and can be relievers, like a bad team, or not even a bad team, but a team that thinks they can figure something out with them, can just take them and stick them in the back of their bullpen, or I guess it would be the front of their bullpen in the low leverage spots and see what they can do. Like, Sandlin would have been picked if he was left unprotected. And then Uberstein, I think, was a guy that I would have liked to see get a shot later in the season, like you said, as that pitching depth started to wear down. We never got that, but he ultimately gets protected, so it makes it a lot easier for him to get called up. And I think that's a big thing with all of these guys. If you don't have to clear a 40-man spot for them, you can just bring them right up. It makes it so much easier to, like, if you were going to call up one of these guys. And I think part of the reason we didn't see Sandlin in September is because simply because the results weren't there when they shifted him into a bullpen role in Worcester. Like, I think that's a guy that you make it work for with his kind of stuff. But someone like Uberstein, where he's probably going to be like a Lou Merloni Expressway type of starter, like you're not going to DFA somebody for that guy. So like now that they're here on the 40, man, it makes it easier to do that. And now he's another guy, two more names that you throw into the mix for that fifth starter. I don't think they're going to be pushing for that job out of camp, but like we said, as you go through the season, you can never have enough pitching. These are guys we're going to see on the major league roster now.
Yeah, and that makes me excited because, like you said, we were kind of kicking the tires on whether or not they should be called up last season when that pitching depth was really hurting at the end of the year. Obviously, you didn't see any of these guys, but now I'm curious to see maybe can some of them be those spark plugs like Connolly Early and Peyton Tolley, because now we've seen the pitching factory and the pitching development in motion. We can confirm it exists. The search was on for a while, but I can confidently say the pitching lab exists. So I'm all the more confident in these guys being able to pan out, and I'm happy that they're here because these are names that I've heard for a while now, and I'm excited to see how they develop.
Yeah, and even just to quickly go through some of the names that were left unprotected. Miguel Boye is a big one that fans will know. Noah Song was left unprotected again. Obviously, he was left unprotected last year, 2 years ago. The Phillies scooped him up, and then ultimately he was returned. I wonder if maybe we see another team take a shot on him, although like I said, the fact that we're still talking about Noah Song in the Big 2-5 is so funny. It
We're
feels like
waiting.
he's been around forever. Yordani Monegro was left unprotected, but he's recovering from Tommy John, so I can't imagine is going to be
Probably not.
selected. Although, man, if you're a crafty GM, because it doesn't count if you IR or IL them. So if you pick Yordani Monegro and just stash him on your 60-day IL, he works his way back up from Tommy John, and you stick him in the bullpen and work him up from there. That's kind of a
Don't give anyone any ideas.
That's true. Nobody has hired me to be their ideas guy yet, so I don't need to
giving out these for free.
Yeah, I don't need to float that out there. But yeah, I think that if that were to happen, that would be my biggest, like, what in the fuck were you thinking, dude? Like, let me look at the 40-man right now, but I can't imagine that there's a guy that you can't get rid of to potentially keep Yordani Monegro. Yeah, exactly. Von Grissom. Like, any number, Nate Eaton. Like, Giovanni Moran is still kicking around. Yeah. Like, I would have DFA'd Tristan Gray, who they just got, to make room for. Yeah, like, just like any number of guys. So I'll be pissed if that is something that happens. But I wouldn't necessarily hold my breath on that one.
I agree. So yeah, a bit of housekeeping, just going through a lot of transactions that happened over this past week. And now we can get into more of the off-season wish list and reporting that we've seen so far. So I know you mentioned Bo Bichette earlier, and Rob Bradford's reporting on that. So what were you thinking on that?
I'll just read what Bradfo said. This came yesterday from Rob Bradford, weei.com. Ever since Craig Breslow declared that one of his two priorities this offseason was to find a middle-of-the-order hitter, most eyes have turned to free agents Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso. But according to multiple sources, another name should be added to the Red Sox target list, Bo Bichette. He's not largely seen as a shortstop, but is viewed as a guy who can fill in admirably at second or third base if Bregman walks. Bichette in his career at Fenway Park, 157 plate appearances, dash line of 329, 382, 524, which is good for a 907 OPS, 6 home runs, 20 RBIs, and 149 WRC+. I wasn't sold on Bo Bichette at first, but I don't think Alex Bregman's coming back. So I think that he's your next best option in terms of replacing the Alex Bregman production. I don't know what he's like as a leader, and I also think that maybe the Red Sox will step away from Bregman if they feel like they can get Bichette at a similar AAV in only a year or two more, because if we're talking about a 5-year, $150 million deal for Alex Bregman or a 6-year, $80 million deal for Bregman, it feels like that's where most of the projections have him around. Bichette's supposed to get like an 8-year deal at age 28 currently, so does an 8-year deal at $240 million, same AAV, just a couple years longer, for a younger player, more appetizing to the Red Sox front office. We know the way that ownership has kind of looked at things. Obviously a different regime from Chaim Bloom, but it's still the same Sam Kennedy, John Henry, and shit, fucking like 80% of the front office is the same as Chaim Bloom. So I'm curious to see if maybe that's a little bit more palatable to give a younger guy like that. We've seen their willingness to do something like that with younger guys. We'll see what happens. Like, to me, the Blue Jays just came within 1 out of the World Series. Right. Like, I don't know why they would let him go, like, and he wasn't even there for their full stretch run. Like, to me, I think the Blue Jays would be stupid to not bring in Tucker and keep Bichette and, like, really load up to go back at it. I mean, you gave the Dodgers their best punch that they've seen, that they saw the entire playoffs, and you can argue that aside from one pitch from Jeff Hoffman, they should have won the World Series. They should have beat the Dodgers. So it seems like something where the Blue Jays might be dumb to let him go. But if it looks like Bregman's going to go somewhere else for similar money, I don't see why Bichette wouldn't be a good fallback option. And again, this also has to come in addition to somebody else. The same way we've been talking about, and I know you put it in your wish list, the Morosi report that if Bregman walks, the Red Sox would be strong suitors to pry Pete Alonso away from the Mets. It needs to be both. You weren't one bat shy in the playoffs playoffs. You were 2 bats shy in the playoffs. Or I guess I worded that wrong. You were 1 bat shy in the playoffs with Alex Bregman. If you just swap out Pete Alonso for Alex Bregman, guess what you are? You're still 1 bat shy. Like, so it needs to be 2. Like, there needs to be 2 additions. I have 2 additions. We'll get into the passing stuff, but he links them to a couple different hitters, couple different pitchers. So we'll see what happens. But my mind is more open to Bo Bichette than it was in the past.
Yeah, I don't hate it when you spell it out for me like that. Like, he wasn't really on my radar, to be honest. I know there's a little bit of injury concern. He played like half a season in 2024 and obviously had to work his way back to be able to be healthy enough for the World Series, but he wasn't around for most, if not all, of the rest of that playoff run. So there's a little bit of concern for me there, but just looking at his production, like, this is a star level player. I think he's in that same category as an Alex Bregman, as a Pete Alonso, but like you said, he's a bit younger, and maybe does that fit this young core better? I think yes and no, because the leadership is a big part of this. Could we see them bring in like a Pete Alonso and he becomes the leader that Alex Bregman was last year? Potentially. But I don't know. If you're picking between one of these guys, I think I would just feel more comfortable bringing back Bregman because you know what you get from him, and you hope it's better than last year in terms of availability and production after the injury as well.
Yeah, I think I lean that way too with you. I think if you're saying, and I think it was Ed Hands tweeted, who would you, or maybe it was just Bradfill, right, on the Baseball is Boring account, who would you rather the Red Sox sign, Bo Bichette or Alex Bregman? And the large majority of respondents said Alex Bregman, and I definitely fall into that camp too with everything that you said. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. First of all, we know that Alex Bregman is a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. We don't necessarily know what Bo Bichette's going to be like at third base or second base. A lot of people are projecting that he'll be just fine at either of those positions, but it was a -13 outs above average at shortstop this year. You mentioned the leadership aspect. I would push back a little bit on that. Like, sure, we don't necessarily know what Alonso is like as a leader, but that if I think it'd be Schwarber. Like,
yeah,
why not go with Schwarber if you're looking for a leadership aspect? But yeah, I'm definitely there with you. I think something that Bichette does, and Bregman does this well too, so it's not like, all right, we're swapping out someone who strikes out a ton for someone who doesn't strike out at all. But Bichette last year was only a 14.5% K rate, 86th percentile, whiff percentage of 83rd percentile, 18.4%. So this is a Red Sox team that, like we said, they struck out way more than they should have last year. It bared out in the wins and losses. I don't know what the final tally was, but for a while there, whenever they struck out 10 or more times, it was pretty much a guaranteed loss. So like I said, that's not something that you're not getting in Alex Bregman, who finished the year with a 14.1% strikeout rate, but it is something that would fix your problems. But I think it needs to be one of Bregman or Bichette, and then one of the first baseman power hitters, because I don't think you're getting a similar power out of Bichette and Bregman as you would one of those other guys.
No, not at all. And I'm with you there. I know, like you said, I put it later in the notes, but Morosi, when he was like, oh, well, if they don't bring Bregman back, then they're prime candidates for Pete Alonso. You're the Boston Red Sox.
It needs to be both.
If you are trying to peddle this BS to me, if we can't afford both Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso, our pockets are empty. Please buy more overpriced beers and Fenway Franks so we can afford both of these players. Shut up, okay? I have heard this for years, and I'm tired of it. This is the year. The playoff window is officially open. You made the wild card last year. You won one game. Let's build off of that. You don't build off of that if you don't swing big. And I know this free agency class isn't the best, but there are plenty of avenues to take to improve your, like Craig Breslow said, your slugging percentage after you traded Rafael Devers. The best way to do that is to bring in either Pete Alonso or Kyle Schwarber. And yes, Kyle Schwarber can be your leader, but I just don't understand why bring in Alex Bregman for 1 year. Why ruffle the feathers of Rafael Devers to the point where you trade him just to be like, okay, see you later. And I know you said that last episode too. It just makes no sense to be like, yeah, we're out on Bregman now because we have Pete Alonso. Like, shut up. I know you can afford it.
At least if they do that, like if they let Bregman go after 1 year and then bring in Bichette and
Sure.
another bat, it's way more palatable to me that they do that than just let Bregman walk and bring in Alonso, because like I said, you're still 1 bat short.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you've
It has to
effectively
be
just
fair.
shuffled things around.
It makes no sense if you're just going to be like, okay, Bregman's out the door. Here's Pete Alonso. Yeah, you're still missing a bat. Like, who's playing third base? I guess Marcelo Meyer, but then you have
Then who's playing second?
Right, then Romy Gonzalez again. If I have to sit through 162 games of Romy Gonzalez again, I'm going to lose my mind. And he was good last year, fine, but he's a platoon bat. Like, he proved that. He proved that in the playoffs. Like, and I gave Romy his flowers, and I still have a little bit of animosity towards him just because of the whole figurehead thing of giving these 4A players a chance. Like, he cannot be your everyday solution at second base. Like, it just, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. This is what we've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years now. It's time to, change the outside opinion on this team, because everyone in free agency is like, yeah, well, who knows if these guys are still committed to winning. They made the playoffs last year, but if they don't build on that and actually go out and spend money, then why should I believe in this team?
And you also saw the deficiencies in the lineup. Like, that's why they lost. They lost in the playoffs because they couldn't produce enough runs. The Cam Schlittler, I went on this rant right after the game. All he threw were dick-high fastballs. You just couldn't catch up to them. Like, that's all he threw. He missed over the heart of the plate so many times, and you just swung right through it. I don't understand why you aren't addressing this team's biggest deficiency. Well, we're getting Roman Anthony back. Roman Anthony is 21 years old. Like, it should be Roman Anthony in addition to these guys. Like, that's how you win. Look at every single winning Red Sox team, aside from 2013, where they found fool's gold and a bunch of veterans that were able to rally around a tragedy, and also one of the greatest, if not the greatest, World Series performance of all time from David Ortiz. Like, they all supplemented young talent with established veteran superstars. Every single one of those teams did. You have Dustin Pedroia, Jacoby Ellsbury. I don't know if you've ever heard of these names before, seeing you're so young. Don't remember the 07 World Series. You have all these young superstars, and what do? You go out there and you make a big swing. You trade top prospect Hanley Ramirez and Anibal Sanchez. You bring in Josh Beckett and Mike Lowell to go along with your young stable of arms, John Lester and Clay Buchholz, to pair with Kurt Schilling. Like, it goes on and on. In 2018, we saw it with Mookie and Bogarts and Jackie Bradley Jr. You bring in David Price and Chris Sale and JD Martinez, Mitch Moreland, all these veteran presences. It needs to be something like that. Like, you have the key to success. You've won more World Series in the last 25 years than any other team in the sport, and you've done it with the same formula time and time again. So why now magically shift away from it? The window is open, and you need to go back to that formula that's worked.
Oh, we cooked on that. That was a LeBron to Wade alley-oop, that iconic picture. Oh, man. Yeah, that got the juices flowing. Like, how will you respond, Craig Breslow? This is the offseason to do it. And I know everyone coming into this offseason was like, wow, this free agency class sucks. But no other team in the league has the trade ammunition that the Red Sox do. I firmly believe that. Maybe there's some other teams, but I mean, none of the rumors are as prominent as it is with
maybe
the Red
5.
Sox. Yeah.
Like, with the farm capital that the Red Sox have, there's maybe 5 teams that have more.
So there are plenty of avenues to improve this team. I know we have our wish list, but real quick, do we want to do the pass-in primer?
Yeah, might as well just quickly rattle off a couple of the Red Sox related notes. This is where I was going to do my Cubs rant about how trading for Tucker was the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Because passing in that says that the Cubs don't seem like they're even a little bit interested in meeting the price.
So silly.
But yeah, so stupid. But yeah, so Passan did his offseason preview. He mentions the Red Sox as players for Alonso and Schwarber, and then Okamoto and Munetaka Murakami. I don't know if we've dove real deep in on Murakami, but he has incredible power, like potentially generational power, but also potentially generational strikeout concerns. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, but they were not pretty on fastballs above 93 miles an hour. And I've seen people, and I know they address this on the 10, be like, oh, well, like, why don't you just stick him in the minors for a couple years? He's already 26 years old. You're not signing this guy. And especially like some of these guys, the prices tend to get a little bit out of control. I mean, shit, look at what they gave Masataka Yoshida. So these guys coming over from Japan, the prices might get a little bit out of control, and it's such tantalizing power from Murakami that I feel like the bidding is going to get way more out of control than it necessarily should given the profile. So I don't see them, and part of the thing that I mentioned was certainty. I'm looking for more certainty than what someone like Munetaka Murakami is going to give you, which like I would have really liked him if they were in a better position in terms of like having that like guy or like you know what you're going to get out of him for a 162 game season. Like right now with where this roster is at, it's just way too risky to bring in a guy like Murakami. Okamoto I've seen people more interested in, but that's another guy where like you just don't know how it's going to translate. Like, yes, the contact rates look good. Like, he's another one that's probably a first baseman, not a third baseman. So, like, how does that fit in? Like, I'm looking for someone who I've seen do it at the major league level. So I definitely lean more towards the Alonzo Schwarber side of that.
I'm with you. I think there are teams who can afford to be like, oh, I don't want to call it a flyer, but it feels like more of a flyer on these international free agents than someone you've seen do it at the major league level before. I just think, like you said, the Red Sox are in a position to win now, and bringing in those more proven commodities, I think, is the move.
Yeah, and also it's, I guess we can throw Tatsuyu Imai. I definitely don't butcher that name.
I know I'm pretty sure it's Imai, right?
Yeah, that one was what I was most comfortable with in my, but yeah, he's kind of in a similar boat where you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from him. I saw someone comparing his fastball to Joe Ryan's, but with a better breaking ball, but like, that's just Japan is in such an extreme dead ball era right now, which makes it even funnier that Trevor Bauer's just getting his shit rocked over and over again, but they're in such an extreme dead ball era that I'm kind of skeptical on guys coming over as pitchers, not like power pitchers. Like obviously when you're talking about guys like Yamamoto or Sasaki, who like I know it didn't necessarily pan out super well for Sasaki, but he's still a generational type prospect. Like I'd be more willing to go in on guys like that than I necessarily would out of Imai. But it kind of goes back to the same conversation with Okamoto and Murakami. I'm just looking for guys where I've seen them do it in Major League Baseball before, especially if like Passan speculated Imai might be getting like one of the bigger contracts for a pitcher. Like I'd rather be paying Michael King or Dylan Cease or even Framber Valdez. Like the catcher stuff is obviously not good, but I just think with the state of the Red Sox defense, you don't need to go out and get like a extreme ground ball pitcher like Valdez. But like I'd be much more comfortable giving one of those guys a contract of that size than a guy that we've never seen do it against major league pitching.
Yeah, and I think there's also plenty of options out there in terms of starting pitching. So there's a lot of different avenues they can go down, and same deal. Like I would rather them bring in a Michael King, a Dylan Cease, or trade for someone than sign more of a question mark.
Yeah, I just continuing on with the Passan article. He mentioned the Red Sox as one of the few teams with the prospect capital to land Tarek Skubal if the Tigers decide to move him. He did a whole like breakdown of the decision facing the Tigers. Effectively, do you risk losing a pitcher who's going to be looking for potentially $400 million on the open market for nothing after next season? But also, like, what signal does it send to your fans if you're trading your best player, a guy who just won back-to-back Cy Youngs for the first time since Pedro? Like, it's a pretty interesting decision that they have facing them. Like, personally, I think they should probably trade him. Like, you need to make your final best offer at some point this offseason and say, all right, what do you think? Take it or leave it. This is as high as we're going. And if that's something he was unwilling to do, which what I think it was Heyman reported that they were, like, well over $200 million away.
Like how?
So, like, they were offering him the John Lester deal, like $4 and $80, and he's looking for $14 and $400.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's I'm not super crazy about giving up the capital necessary. Like effectively, Passan was like, if a team like absolutely blows them away, they're gonna trade him. If not, then he thinks they're gonna hang on to him. But like, I'm not really in the business of blowing them away for 1 year of Tarek Skubal. Like, yeah, it'd be fun and all, but like, unless you're willing to get to the table and pony up like $350+ million to keep him here, then I just ripped the Cubs for doing that same thing. So
Right.
I'm pretty much all set on Skubal. Like, yeah, it would be filthy to have like, if you find yourself in the wild card round, I think it's a big disappointment with those two guys. But if you do, you advance. Like, you might as well just put the Red Sox in Sharpie next to whatever their next opponent was. But yeah, I'm not super inclined to give up that capital.
Yeah, my thing is, like, and we'll get to my offseason wish list, but I think there's a potential to make 2 trades for 2 different starters if you don't
Yeah.
go after Skubal. So I would just, like, obviously Skubal generational, 1-2 back-to-back Cy Youngs, but it's just, I would rather a more complete rotation and bring in potentially 2 guys rather than just 1.
Yeah, that makes sense too. And as we get into it, I kind of had a little bit of a qualifier because when I did mine, I'm like, man, this is a lot of money that they're spending. Like, I wonder if they're more likely to go 1-1 and then 1-1 in terms of trade and
True.
signings, both on offense and defense. So we can get into kind of some of the names there once we get into that. But it is an interesting conversation with that. Like, yeah, but I like, if you're talking about the password and Tolley and Early and Arias, like, they're gonna want guys that are ready to go. Like, I would guess that Peyton Tolley would have to be in any trade for Tarek Skubal, and I don't know. We saw the ceiling with Peyton Tolley, and I'm not saying that he's gonna be a Tarek Skubal level pitcher, but what is more valuable to you both in the short and the long term? TJ Stats, who I think does a really good job especially on the pitching side on Twitter, doing prospect breakdowns and stuff plus analysis. He has Tolley as a number 15 prospect in the entire sport, and Connolly Early was, I believe, 26. So, like, what is worth more to you, 5 years of one of those two guys, or potentially 1 season of Tarek Skubal and then facing either losing him for a qualifying offer pick, which you're going to be over the luxury tax, so that's the back of the 4th round for a 4th round pick, or having all those guys, like, or paying him $400 million. Like, to me, I just think there are better avenues to spend those assets and money than going out and getting Skubal. You already have Crochet.
Totally agree. Like, I think you need a number 2, but I mean, Tarek Skubal would be your ace, and then Garrett Crochet is your number 2. Feels like a bit overkill.
Yeah, especially if it's not like I said, someone that's under control. Like, if Skubal had like even 2 years of team control, I'd be more open to something like that. But
Right.
I just think there are pitchers that maybe don't fit your timeline better, but just because Freddie Peralta's also on a 1-year deal coming in, but he's not going to command $400 million if you want to keep him around. Like, like you said, it'd be a little bit of overkill to have 2 of the 3 best pitchers in baseball, and just for 1 season.
Like, I would absolutely love to watch it. I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I agree more. Good on that. Should I keep rolling on passing?
Yeah.
Red Sox love Alex Bregman, who opted out of the final 2 years and $80 million of his contract, and won't close the door on a reunion despite having Marcelo Meyer ready to play third. Detroit and Chicago, which pursued him last winter but came up short, will rejoin the fray, with Philadelphia lurking as it juggles its multiple potential paths. I think he's gone. I think Philly is going to be, especially if things start to devolve with Schwarber, and say the Red Sox land Schwarber before Bregman signs. Like, I think Dombrowski is so petty that he'd be like, fine, you want to take Kyle Schwarber? Alex Bregman, how's about 8 and 200?
I wouldn't hate that exchange, though, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't necessarily, except for the fact that that would have to come with Bichette. Because then you're trading a guy with a high strikeout rate for a guy who doesn't strike out a lot, obviously. You're unbalancing your lineup again, which I'm not someone who super cares about the balanced lineup, but I do think you would probably need another righty in there just to avoid getting, like, a string of, like, ridiculous lefties coming out of the pen for someone being like, oh, well, we got to stretch a Schwarber, Anthony Duran, or however it ends up shaking out. Like, we can just throw that. I don't even know who a filthy Josh Hader. We can just throw Hader out there and game over. Like, I don't know. I just don't see him being back. Like, that mentions 3 other teams with the Red Sox. I've seen the Yankees kicked around as a potential team for Bregman. I don't know if I necessarily see that one. I've seen the Astros thrown around for a potential reunion. Obviously, they needed to trade for Carlos Correa to play third base at the deadline. Do they maybe move Correa back to third, Pena to second? How do they shuffle things around as they look to kind of rebuild them or retool themselves into legitimate contenders after completely melting down at the end of the season? Like, I don't know. It just seems like there's a lot going against a potential Alex Bregman reunion.
Yeah, I am a reunion believer, to be honest with you. I would put my percentage at like 65 that he comes back.
Okay.
I
I'm at like 40.
Which is fair. I think the Phillies scare me because of
Mhm.
Dombrowski. I don't think he would go to the Yankees. I really just don't see that happening. Some of these other teams like Detroit, he already said no to Detroit last year. Why would he
Yeah.
say yes this year?
If he wanted to be a Tiger, he would have already been a
Right.
Tiger.
And Chicago, it's like they're not bringing back Kyle Tucker. Let's go get Bregman.
Yeah, but it's also way shorter term and way less money.
I
Like, we're
guess.
talking about like half the deal that Tucker's gonna get.
I guess, but he's in win now mode. Like he mentioned that last year. Like that's part of
Mhm.
it. And if the Cubs don't bring back Kyle Tucker and they're like, "Hey, Bregman, come in here," well, we basically have no one else. Like I get they have some young guys. They have PCA. They have Michael Bush, some other guys in there.
Yeah,
But it's
Nico Horner,
right.
Dansby. The Cubs, like, I don't think they're like ready to win the World Series by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that they're a team that, like, even if if they swapped Kyle Tucker for Alex Bregman, I think they're still a playoff team.
Yeah, but there's a difference between like a fringe playoff team and a World Series contender. And I think if Bregman came back and you add Pete Alonso, like the Red Sox are a contender.
Oh, absolutely. But I think in the new format, like we saw the Diamondbacks be a wild card team
Right.
and make a run. I don't necessarily know that Bregman is going to look at it like that. Like, oh, well, in this format, like any team can make a run. But like, I kind of do question still the willingness of the Red Sox front office to put 5+ years on the table for what, a 31-year-old Alex Bregman who had the quad barking at him this year. He had his production dip at the end of the season. Like I am a little bit still concerned that we're going to see conservative John Henry come out and be like, are we really going to give pitchers over like big long-term deal? And then, 2 years later, it's David Price time in Boston. Like we've seen this flip-flop over and over and over again, that I do wonder if like ever since this Bo Bichette report came out from Bradfo, it really makes me think that they maybe prefer Bichette over Bregman just because of the age.
Which is fine by me. But if you're going to be like, we can't overpay for these guys, we can't give them that extra year.
Well, then
so
that's
they'll
what free
sign them.
agency is. You're just not going to
Exactly.
re-sign anybody. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you have to overpay. That's the whole deal with free agency. We've seen it time and time again. I mean, the only reason Xander Bogaerts is wearing a Padres uniform is because they basically doubled his deal.
Yeah, exactly. And it for too often or too much, we've heard them say like, oh, like eventually the prices just got uncomfortable, whether it be the deadline, whether it be free agency. That's what all of this is. That's what player acquisition is. Player acquisition is overpaying, whether it be in prospect capital or US dollar capital.
Right.
Like that is what player acquisition is.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. It's just the nature of the beast. Like, whatever you want to say, there's no way around it. If you're going to try to tell me you want to contend in the playoffs, you want to win another World Series, then you're going to have to get uncomfortable. There's just no way around it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Last thing from Passan. On the outfielders, Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu. The Red Sox almost surely will deal one of them. There aren't enough at-bats in the lineup for both, especially if they add another bat in free agency. To which I say, Jeff, they have to add 2 bats in free agency. Yet again, they have to add 2. And I don't understand why so many national guys are only treating this like they just can add 1 and be ready-made. They subtracted a bat. And if they lose Bregman, that's subtracting another bat. I'm not a math guy. I am getting absolutely dominated in Zach versus math by math, but I'm pretty sure that 1 + 1 = 2. If you have 1 hole in your lineup already and another guy you had in leaves, 2 holes in your lineup, 2 additions. Take that, math.
Math has never been more shook in its life, I don't think.
Yeah, math is in an absolute body bag right now.
Oh, man. But yes, like it's just, I don't understand. And I understand that I don't understand and I understand. Jeez, words are hard.
They're David versus words, Zach versus math.
It's been a battle for the last year we've been doing this. But what I'm trying to say is these national guys, I don't fully think they know what they're talking about. Like they're looking at this from a much larger scale. Like the team reporters, the beat writers know this from more of an ins and outs perspective. And I think they more recognize that you need to.
Yeah, you heard it here first. David Azer on the Entering Kenmore podcast. Jeff Passan doesn't know ball.
No. Let me stop you right there. I love Jeff Passan. He's my most trusted national guy. I have his tweet notifications on. I love when he puts other people in a body bag on Twitter. It's one of the best things ever. Honestly, he's probably the national reporter that I will read like pretty much everything he puts out.
Yeah, same.
Some of these other guys like Morosi, I'm sorry. I just since the Shohei plane incident, I'm like, okay, I'm not believing it. Pretty much anything you say.
No. Yeah, and Rosenthal doesn't know what he's talking about.
And he's a
Heyman's a
jerk.
mouthpiece. Yeah, Heyman's a mouthpiece for
Right.
Morris. Nightingale he's a volume shooter, that's for sure. Yeah, it's passing or nobody pretty much in terms of a national reporter game. But yeah, I don't know if the national people like Passan is very plugged in. Obviously, like I wonder if he's just hearing that they're only going to do one, which I don't know why he would just put that because I think that's way newsy than if they add another bat in free agency, like just like an offhand closing line towards the end of an article of your offseason primer. Like to me, like that's one of the lead stories. Like the Red Sox don't think they need to add multiple bats in addition to, or another bat in addition to bringing back Alex Bregman. So I don't know if that's just him teasing it but we've seen it so many times. I tweeted this. It makes me wonder if that's FSG kind of soft launching it.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. Like they do put out feelers a lot of like strategically leaking information just to see how people respond to it. But I'm all over trading both of them.
Except for trading their best player.
No, yeah. That was horrible. But I'm honestly coming more around every single day on trading both of them. Because I think there are benefits to getting rid of both of them. And you also have people waiting in the wings. Like Christian Campbell, I think, deserves a shot. And if you're going to give him an everyday spot, it has to be in the outfield.
In the contract, like you've given him the contract
Right.
and nobody's going to take it now. Like he was pre-arb. You didn't have to give it to him. And we all praise them for giving it to him. And I still think that that's going to turn out to be a pretty team-friendly deal. But it doesn't do anything for you with that deal sitting in AAA.
No, not at all. And the only way he's going to get better is if he's facing major league pitching every day. You already sent him down for a majority of last season. You let him kind of get his feet back under him and everything like that. And now it's time to see it. Like, if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. But I need an avenue to him playing every day and improving.
And especially if you're going to look at it and say, like, okay, he wore down. He wasn't able to maintain some of the weight that was generating high speed, high bat speed. And a lot of like more exit velo, launch angle, those things. Like if you think that that was the problem and he's already put the weight back on, and we know he's a guy who's an absolute junkie. That's like he was already in Fort Myers when the season ended last year and was ready to just keep going. And he's already put that weight back on, and it's only November 20th right now.
Right.
Like he's ready to go. Like I just think that like if that's what you think was the problem, then you think that he's going to be able to continue to replicate what he did in April of last season for maybe not the duration of the year, but for a longer span. So like what use does that do for you if he's in AAA in March and April and May, and then by the time you call him up in June, it's like already like he's starting to wear down again. Like I just think that he's a guy, like I said, you've given him the contract and you think you've figured out the problem with him and he's going to get back to where he is. Like I just think there needs to be an easier path for playing time for him. And that's also to say that I don't think that his spot should be guaranteed, but if he comes out and he has a strong spring training, I think that path needs to be pretty easy for him to make the roster, the same way that you rolled out the red carpet for him to win the second base job. I mean, he had a terrible spring training,
Right.
and they were like, yep, he's the opening day second baseman because my computer model said that was our best team. Like that's just the way it has to be, like personally for me, but that also needs to come with more certainty being added to your lineup, because if you're trading Wilyer Abreu, who, yeah, there's some durability concerns, yeah, there's some platoon concerns, but at the bare minimum, you know relatively what you're going to get from Wilyer Abreu on a night in and night out basis when he's healthy. You need to have that type of certainty at another position to be like, okay, we're going to give Christian Campbell the runway here to figure things out.
Yeah, I think that's it for the Passan primer, right?
Yeah, that was the end of the passing.
All right.
At least Red Sox related.
So yeah, good time. An hour 35 in to get to our off-season wish list here. So how do we want to do this? Do you want to just rattle yours off and then I can go after? Or
Yeah, so I put an entire rotation and starting lineup in there.
I did too. I didn't.
Okay,
put
all right,
bullpen,
perfect.
but-
No, I didn't either. I just had a couple like bullpen notes that I was gonna quickly get to at the end.
Okay.
So obviously, starting pitcher 1, you have Garrett Crochet. Slotting in behind him, I have them trading for a guy that, for whatever reason, I've always really liked, Freddie Peralta from the Brewers. I know I just said that we are done with the Passan, but here comes from the Passan article. Freddie Peralta, right-handed pitcher of Milwaukee. Now that Brandon Woodruff accepted a qualifying offer, executives with interest in acquiring Peralta believe it drastically increases the chances of him moving. If Woodruff had hit free agency, Peralta almost certainly would have stayed. Now Milwaukee has more flexibility to see how much it can rep for a front lines, or rep? That must be a spelling error. It must be reap. Reap for a frontline starter with an ultra cheap $8 million salary. I'm ready to give up pretty much whatever it takes to get Freddie Peralta. $8 million is $8 million. It's cool. I'm not really worried about the money too much, although I did say that when I was looking, I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money to be spending. So maybe it does factor in for them. Last time they traded a frontline starting pitcher, Corbin Burns got dealt to the Orioles for Joey Ortiz and DL Hall. Ortiz, I believe, was just inside the top 100 prospects, and DL Hall was just outside the top 100. It's not a perfect field with Sal
Yelich.
too.
Yeah, and he gets hurt a lot, so I wonder if they just move him there full time.
Yeah, and I was trying to think who their other outfielder was, but I can't remember who it was. I know it wasn't Gary Mitchell. That's why I said not him. But yeah, so I don't necessarily know what I assume that it would be a pitcher headlined package. So can someone like Connolly Early do enough of the heavy lifting in a deal like that where you don't have to give up as highly regarded as a prospect from the position player side or something like that? Like I feel like whenever anybody gets into the mock trade realm, it always ends up being like the worst trade imaginable.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily know what those pieces would be, but I would imagine that Connolly Early would have to be the headliner of a deal like that. But I'm ready for Freddie Peralta to be on the Boston Red Sox. I teased it earlier. I have them acquiring 2 starting pitchers. The Rhode Island kid, Michael King, coming home. This also comes from Passan. Though some wondered if right-hander Michael King would accept a qualifying offer, he's likelier to land a contract in the range of Nathan Eovaldi's 3-year, $75 million deal from last winter, something that we know the Red Sox were at least tangentially interested in. Not even tangentially interested in. We knew that they thought they had him. They thought they had Nathan Eovaldi back, and he ultimately decided to stay put with the Rangers. This is something that I think they should be totally comfortable with. A 3-year kind of, not necessarily a prove-it deal for Michael King, but kind of a little bit of a pillow contract where he can kind of prove he can stay healthy, continue to perform in a big market. He obviously was a reliever with the Yankees for most of his time there before going to San Diego and was a starter. This was a guy who was absolutely nails at the start of the season for the Padres, and then he kind of had a little bit of an injury concern. Like there's a chance that I think Michael King turns out to be the top pitcher on this market, especially if he stayed healthy throughout the entire season. And continued on that pace he was on. He would have been a top probably 3, 4, 5 finisher in the Cy Young. So I think this is a guy, if you can get him on a $25 million a year deal for just 3 years and bring him home and kind of work through some of these injury concerns and then see where you are from there, I think that'd be a great move. And like I said, it kind of pushes everyone down a little bit, and it gives you one of the best rotations in baseball, because now you're looking at, again, say this is with this roster that I put together, you should be a division winner. But if you're not, for whatever reason, the Blue Jays are still really good. The Yankees are primed to spend money. If you find yourself in the wild card round, then you do. But you're talking about seeing Garrett Crochet, Freddie Peralta, and Michael King in a wild card round. Like, again, like that's one where even if you do drop a game, you can take your Sharpie out before the series starts and write the Red Sox in the next part of your bracket. So I got Michael King coming in on a deal similar to what Passan said. My SP4, Brian Bayo, and then I mentioned it earlier with my 5. It's some combination of Cutter, Patrick Sandoval, Hunter Dobbins, Dickie Fitz. Connolly Early, like I said, I think is probably headlining a package for Freddie Peralta. So that's one where you you don't have him in the mix, but any number of guys, Uberstein, Johan, Cooper Criswell, all those guys just factoring in the 5. First base, Pete Alonso. I think I feel like I've made it clear my preference is Kyle Schwarber. It seems like the team's preference is Pete Alonso. So I've kind of just have started making peace with that. So I have them bringing in Pete Alonso at second base, Marcelo Meyer, Romy Gonzalez, platoon. Shortstop, I have Trevor Story. Third base, you could probably guess that where I went with this one, given that I don't think Bregman is back. I think they're going to land Bo Bichette on a deal in the 8 and 240 range, right around 30 mil a year. So similar AAV to what I think Bregman's probably going to end up getting, but a couple years longer for a couple years younger guy. Left field, I have a Willier or Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, platoon. I would assume that in this one that you're not platooning Roman Anthony, obviously, so I would guess that in days where Campbell's playing, he's in left and Roman is in right with Willier on the bench. And then when Willier's in, Roman's in left and Willier's in right, because it just feels like a waste to have a back-to-back Gold Glover in right field. Cedon Rafaela in center. I already said Roman in right. And then the captain, Carlos Narvaez, behind the plate. My DH spot, I went with Massa tentatively, but I think that there's room in my predictions for another deal. Like, I didn't address where Jarren Duran got traded at all and for who. So I think that that's probably where your DH/first baseman comes in. I know Pasquantino's been thrown around a lot. I don't necessarily know that that's a 1-for-1 swap that I'm super willing to see them make.
Me neither.
I'm not willing to see them make that at all. I wouldn't want to see that happen even a little bit. So I think there's some flexibility in here to do a couple different things. Like I said, spending $75 million on Michael King, and then Freddie Peralta is a guy you have to extend. So that's more money going out the door. So that's kind of where I wondered if it's Pete Alonso and like a Ketel Marte trade, or Bo Bichette and then a Vinny P. Cole Reagans trade or something like that. Like, so there's so many different avenues that they can go down. It's hard to kind of pigeonhole just one. Cause like I said, I put together this entire lineup in roster and then immediately was like, wait, shit, where did I trade Jarren Duran? So I think there's any number of different ways they could go. This, I think, would be, like I said, a team that's capable of contending for the division, capable for contending for the World Series. I didn't do the bullpen, but like I said, I had a couple notes. Obviously, you need some lefties. There was I think it was a Rosenthal report during the GM meetings that the Red Sox were kicking around the idea of building the Super Pen.
Yeah.
I don't know how thrilled stoked I would be on that. Ryan Helsley is still a guy that intrigues me even after his implosion with the Mets when he got traded there at the deadline. So I wouldn't necessarily hate bringing him back in depending on the price. And then as far as bringing in lefties, like honestly, I'm pretty cool just bringing back Justin Wilson and Steven Matz. Like I think both of those guys were like perfectly fine, and you already have a Aroldis Chapman back there. So like if you bring back those two guys and then want to add like another higher floor, high leverage guy, like that's cool with me. But again, we're talking about spending a lot of money here that we just don't know that FSG is going to be willing to spend. So I would guess that at least one or two of these signings that I have them making are converted to getting a similar position / player by way of trade. But that's what I got for this first edition of our offseason rosters.
I like it a lot. Honestly, mine is of a similar ilk, but I went with a couple different options on the pitching side. So I'll start off, obviously, Crochet is your ace. You have taught me to buy in on Freddie Peralta. So I'm all in on that. I think that trade makes a lot of sense in terms of trading some of your younger arms for a more major league ready guy in Freddie Peralta. I think the Brewers may be all over that as well. But for my third starting pitcher, this is a bit of a toss-up. And I feel like I've been not one of the only people talking about this, but a lot of people last offseason were like, oh, the Mariners are the most ideal trade candidate for the Red Sox. And I see the Cincinnati Reds in a very similar position as the Mariners, with an embarrassment of riches of young pitching, but they really need some of that offense. And especially in the Great American Small Park, I think you can benefit from a lot of these guys that may not have as much pop as you think, but in a ballpark like that, that's obviously a hitter's ballpark, I think maybe they may bite at a Jarren Duran, and potentially both Jarren Duran and Wilyer Abreu. And this is obviously just wishful thinking, but I think if you trade both of them, could you fill out some other lower level prospects and get Hunter Green? potentially. I don't
Let
know.
me read what Passon addressed the Hunter Green stuff in his article. Let me see if I can quickly bring it up quick enough.
I doubt
But
they're going to.
that's
Hunter
effectively
Green.
what he said. Well, like I said, let me just see if I can find it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
He said he started that whole section with the pitching trade targets and was like Skeens, no chance, absolutely not, none, no, zero. Then did the whole spiel about Skubal, and then got into Hunter Green and essentially said like not as much of a hard no as on Paul Skeens,
Right.
but pretty much no on Hunter Green. I couldn't pull it up in time,
Oh,
but
you're
that's
good.
like almost word for word what
No,
he said.
but I really don't care which one of the Reds pitchers you get. Like, could it be Lodolo? Could it be Abbott? Could it be Green? Any one of those guys, I would welcome with open arms. I would drive them from the airport to Fenway Park, introduce them. Here's all the great bars you can go to after the game. Here's the best spots to get your coffee, whatever. Like, I just think it makes so much sense, especially for a Reds team that really was contending for that wild card position up until the very end, and has Terry Francona at the helm. He was a finalist for Manager of the Year. Like, it's hard for me to say the Reds are in win now mode, but they clearly have a pulse, you know? They're trying to win at least.
They're at a point where, like, they're not like a similar spot to the Red Sox, but like all their top prospects are starting to move up, and they have a similar logjam at corner infield.
Mm-hmm.
Weirdly enough, they moved to Noelvi Marte to right field to clear that. They obviously have Spencer Steer, they have Sal Stewart, Cam Collier. Like they have a whole host of prospects ready to come up and all playing the same position, and like they just aren't really generating the type of offense needed. I'm trying to pull it back up, but I believe it was on either one of the last episodes of the 10. Coley said that he was talking with Ian Kundle about Wilyer Abreu's spray chart at the Great American Small Park. So I think that would be the one that they would be most interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm all in on a potential Abbott or Rhett Lauder, who's working his way back from Tommy John, or Nick Lodolo, who's a guy that another one that I've always really liked for some reason. Like I don't think Hunter Green is going to be an option, but like really any number of those guys on the Reds I'd be in on.
There's so many of them. Even Chase Burns, I don't think they're going to move on from him.
No, definitely not.
But, you know, he's another. They have a whole staff of young guys. Like, they can afford to move one of those guys. Same as the Mariners could have afforded to move one of those guys, too. And it doesn't seem like it's going to happen in Seattle. Maybe it happens in Cincinnati. I think I'm more optimistic on that. But yeah, for my fourth starter, it's Brian Bayo. For 5, I went with Cutter Crawford, but that could be a number of guys if Connolly Early is still here, if Richard Fitz has a good spring. I don't know. I mean, a number of guys could fill in that spot. I just went with Cutter Crawford. For first base, I am optimistic they bring in Pete Alonso. I think you have to. I think you need to replace that power production that has been lacking since Father's Day.
Why what happens?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so I'm more optimistic they bring in Alonso than Schwarber, just because I know you said you don't care as much about the lefty-righty and, you know, having more than enough of one side, but I would rather go with the righty and Pete Alonso. I have Story at second base. I think, like we mentioned, his arm fell off at the end.
Yeah.
Basically throughout the entire season. So could we see him move to second and Meyer become the full-time shortstop? Wouldn't hate that at all. But you could also platoon, like you said, with Romy. Like, I think that's where Romy's value is. I went on a rant earlier in this episode about how if Romy Gonzalez is an everyday player, I'm going to lose my shit. That remains. I think they're going to bring back Alex Bregman at third base. Wouldn't hate to see Bo Bichette at all, but I just think the comfortability is there on both sides. And I think some national guys are kind of sweeping that under the rug in this whole thing. Like, Bregman seems to like it here. Bregman hits well here. It's probably his most productive ballpark. So I just don't see why you would want to leave that. Whether that happens remains to be seen, but I also have Christian Campbell in left field. I have Rafaela in center field, and I have Roman in right. So you'll notice I have both Wilyer Abreu and Jarren Duran off the team. How that exactly comes to fruition, I don't know. I just think it should happen. I think Campbell should be an everyday outfielder. That's where I'm at. Catcher Narvaez, and I also put as DH Pete Alonso / Tristan Casas / Masataka Yoshida, because I don't see them moving off of Masa's contract, unfortunately. As much as I wish he could just tour the world and become an influencer at this point.
As much as he wishes.
Yeah, like I don't want him on the team anymore. I've said that time and time again. I just don't see any other avenue to that besides DFAing him, and I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think if they're going to spend the money to bring in Alonso and retain Bregman, and then like you have them trading for Freddie Peralta, so that's, like I said, it's someone that you need to then extend.
Right.
Like it's a lot of money going out the door to then be like, we're going to cut bait on Massa and pay him $18 million to become an influencer.
He would do numbers.
Yeah, I think we're both on we're relatively on the same page, obviously,
Mhm.
after going through all of our stuff. Whether or not the Red Sox are on the same page as us, which again, if you are not on the same page as us, why? And could you use 2 ideas, guys? Because we are here, and once again, we are available to be hired. Once again, that's not just an offer to the Boston Red Sox, any major league organization, or it doesn't even have to be major league organization. You heard the first edition of David's Bruins Breakdown.
We're ready.
Are you an NHL team looking for an ideas guy? Here we are.
You can have Zach. I don't think I'm ready yet for that.
So yeah, we're both on the same page relatively, obviously a little bit different names, and I'm sure that, like I said, this is our first edition of our off-season roster predictions. We're going to be way off. We might go over aside from the guys that are already on the roster.
Even then.
So yeah. So who knows how things pan out, but I think both of us have built a team that's like what fans should be expecting this offseason to look like. Like it doesn't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to be these exact names, but to go out and build this type of team that's capable of winning a World Series, that should be the expectation for this offseason.
Absolutely. And I think I went with 2 trades in the rotation just because I don't see them shelling out the money for Bregman and Alonso and a starter.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate it. Like, I wouldn't hate Michael King or Dylan Cease. I just think financially they're going to cry poor and be like, oh, look, we already signed Alonso and Bregman, so maybe the rotation isn't what we would have hoped. But as long as they bring in a number 2 somehow, I'm fine with a number 2 and fill in the rest with what you already have.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
But yeah, I think the only other things we have are a little bit of housekeeping. Josh Naylor re-signed with the Mariners, and that was a 5-year, $92.5 million deal. It's funny that Naylor was the guy that both times before we did our predictions was already locked up.
Which were you going to have him?
No.
On yours? I wasn't going to have him on mine either. I think at the deadline, it made more sense. Is like, okay, like we can kind of fit this square peg into a round hole for the last 3 months. But when you kind of dive into a 5-year deal and you look at how the profile kind of plays at Fenway, it just doesn't at all. Yeah. So that was a guy I wasn't really interested in, but it does it set the market for first baseman like Alonso or Schwarber at 5 and 92.5? I think obviously both of those guys are going to be commanding more money than that. Or does it raise their market because it's another first baseman off the board? And I don't know that teams are looking at Schwarber as a first baseman. I think kind of my brain and a lot of Red Sox fans' brains have kind of shifted towards that because we saw him do it on this team, but he hasn't done it for a second after that. So Is he more of a DH? But Pete Alonso's also a DH. So it's like, I don't really know what direction they go in there. But yeah, first major guy off the board. Then Raisel Iglesias last night, 1 year, 16 mil back to the Braves. Another guy that I was not on my radar in terms of that. Like I said, I don't think they need a major bullpen addition unless it's like Ryan Helsley on like a 3-year, $36 million deal, and you kind of hope he can be the closer in waiting for the post-Chapman era. But then even then, like I'm not looking to shell out $16 million or $15 million plus for a reliever where we don't really know what the spending's going to be, what the budget's going to look like, stuff like that. Like, I just think you already have the second best bullpen in baseball. Like, there isn't really a need to do anything other than some moves around the edges. And if you can get a guy like Helsley on a fairly cheap deal, then bringing in something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it feels good going into an off season where you don't have to majorly address the bullpen. Like, we have been consistently for the past couple of years have been like, who's the closer? Now you have Chapman for the next 2 years. You have Whitlock, you have Slayton as your setup guys. Could you bring in another setup guy potentially? But yeah, like you said, I think moves at the margins are needed in the bullpen, but nothing crazy. And then the only other thing we had was the Orioles and Angels made a trade. I know you have strong opinions on this one.
Oh my god, my brain hurts every time I think about it. It makes no sense. Like, talk about a team, and I bashed the Cubs for it earlier. Talk about a team with just like absolutely no like general direction right now. The Baltimore Orioles, they get this new flashy billionaire owner who's going to come in and spend. They trade for Corbin Burns, reigning Cy Young Award winner, give up the prospect capital, because obviously neither of those two guys panned out, but you hang on to Kobe Mayo, Heston Kierstad, any number of these top prospects that the Orioles had that are all made in the same cracker factory, quite literally. They go out and they trade for Corbin Burns, and I know it was a little bit of like a fait accompli that Corbin Burns wanted to go back home to Arizona, but it didn't really even seem like the Orioles were like super, super keen on bringing him back.
No.
Like, I know they made an offer, but it sounded like the Red Sox were more aggressive than the Orioles in terms of trying to land Corbin Burns before he ultimately ended up in Arizona. And they didn't add anybody else in their rotation, but they had the top pitching prospect in the game in Grayson Rodriguez. And it wasn't always pretty for Grayson Rodriguez by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a 20-whatever-year-old pitcher. And it's not always going to be easy. It's something, again, I think if you were to put a tagline on the bottom of this podcast, entering Kenmore, development isn't linear. Like, that is like, I preach that over and over and over again. I think if we went back and did a word search for all of the phrases that I've said, that would be my number one most used phrase on this podcast. But for whatever reason, the Orioles let their Cy Young Award-winning pitcher go to pass the reins to Grayson Rodriguez. And after 238 and 2/3 innings, they say, you know what? Taylor Ward, you're the guy. We're going to trade 4 years of team control of Grayson Rodriguez for 1 season of Taylor Ward. And don't get me wrong, Taylor Ward is a fine player. To trade Grayson Rodriguez, like, they have to be very, very certain that Gray Rod's arm is just complete spaghetti.
Like, that's the only way this makes sense. Like, Taylor Ward isn't even that good of a player.
No, he's fine, and he's a rental, effectively. He's on a 1 year, and you have all this outfield surplus, whether it be Heston Kjerstad, Colton Cowser, a little bit deeper in the minors, they have Nate George.
Even Tyler O'Neill.
Right, Tyler O'Neill. They used a first-round pick on Vance Honeycutt, who blows. Like, they have so many, again, they are just printing Orioles outfielders at the cracker factory. And they're trading their only pitcher of note for Taylor Ward. Like, what does their rotation look like without Grayson Rodriguez?
It's,
Bradish.
What's his name from the Rays?
Why
am I blanking on his name?
It's not Trevor Rogers, but they have him. What's his name from the Zach Eflin?
Zach Eflin. Yeah.
Yep.
The richest contract in Rays history for a free agent.
Yep. Yeah, they have Zach Eflin, Kyle Bradish, the Cream Machine.
Yeah.
It's just really bleak. And like I said, every time I look at that, and I feel like I was in the majority of baseball Twitter where I saw that trade and I was like, is this a different Grayson Rodriguez? Like, what are we, like, what am I looking at? Like, and it wasn't like, we didn't get like a pass and breaking or anything like that. It was just the teams tweeted out like a graphic, like, we've made the following trade.
Like have they soured on Grayson Rodriguez that much? It's weird to me because when the Orioles changed owners, I was told that they were going to spend big money.
Yeah.
They were going to be up there with the Dodgers, Yankees, Red Sox, Mets. We just haven't seen it. It's been the same.
They did a bobblehead for the new owner. People were so hyped about this new owner. They did a fucking bobblehead night for a billionaire. Which if you're a guy that is like, oh, I gotta get the new David Rubenstein bobblehead, like you need to remove the billionaire's boots from your fucking mouth, because that is a disgusting display of bootlicking.
Dude, this guy has Magna Carta money. Quite literally bought the original actual Magna Carta, and he can't afford to bring it back Corbin Burns or sign any of these pitchers. He's actively hurting the team. It's crazy.
We have bad owners, but at least we don't have owners like that.
I know. Is Is it too late for the breakdown? We're already 2 hours into this thing, so up to you. Oh, it certainly is. And
We got time for a quick one. We got time for a quick one.
It has been a long time since we've had a Bruins breakdown. I mean, last time I think we were like 4 games into the season. The Bruins were 3-1, something along those lines. And things were looking great. And now I'm here to tell you, I don't know what the hell this team is. Because since we have last talked, Zach, we have seen a 6-game losing streak followed by a 7-game winning streak.
7!
And now I just don't know what to make of this team. I really don't. I have a bunch of different takes here, but that's my starter take for you.
Yeah, since the debut of David's Bruins breakdown, it has been over. We have been back, and it is back over with the injury of Charlie McAvoy. It's you said you don't know what to make of this team. This team is precisely what I thought they were going to be. Bad. They're a bad team. I was I don't want to say I was disappointed when they were playing well, because I'm never going to root for them to outright lose. But when you look at the state of their farm system, the state of their roster, like, for them to overperform and sneak into like the 8th seed of the playoffs and then get absolutely housed by Florida when they're healthy, or any number of these teams that are playing well right now, Carolina, New Jersey, like any number of the actual good teams in the Eastern Conference, like, that would have just set them back several more years than where they would have been. Like, so to me, like, I'm hoping that obviously you don't root for injuries, and that McAvoy injury looked really nasty.
It did.
But it sounded like he was going to be back before the Olympics, which is a big boost to Team USA, because once every however many years we get to pretend like this country isn't a shithole and get fired up for the red, white, and blue. But to me, like, I think they're just a scrappy team, that they're going to be a tough out, but there's going to be a whole lot of games like the one you saw in Ottawa last week, or the one you saw in Anaheim last night, where they're going to fight, and they're going to scrap and claw, and ultimately they're going to lose that game, and they're going to miss out on a point that they probably should get. But long term, I think it's for the best.
Yeah, it's like that Dan Campbell quote, like, we're going to fight you, we may fall to the ground, but on the way up, we're going to scratch off a kneecap, then we're going to poke you in the eye or whatever, but they're not going to win. That's the bottom line. Some other takes I have here. Mason Lohrei was benched for a little bit. I think he was traveling with Disney on Ice. And now he's back, so thank God. I don't know. He wasn't good. Now he's been nothing of note.
Yeah, he's been okay, and I think he went from being like a complete liability and like making Charlie McAvoy look bad. Like, I've long been on the record as I don't think McAvoy's developed the way that any of us were hoping. Like, when he first was here, it was like, all right, we got a workhorse, perennial, like, Norris contender defenseman. Like, welcome back Zdeno Chara. He just hasn't been that for whatever reason, and it was really, really ugly at the beginning of the season. And I think part of that was because, one, we were focusing in on Mason Lohrei so much because it just seemed that he was always out of position, and then in him being out of position, looking at the still shots, McAvoy also looked out of position. But since he was with Nikita Zadorov, and obviously Lohrei was watching from the 9th floor, it looked a lot better with Zadorov and McAvoy. I don't know that he'll ever be the Norris contender that we were hoping for. Maybe in a peak season or two, he's in the mix for it. But it looks so much better without Mason Lohrei there. And I guess I don't know if you have any more takes on the scratches, but I have a response to some of the scratches.
I don't believe so. The only other one was I was sad that Beecher was waived, or how does it work in hockey?
Yeah, waived.
Yeah. So nothing else on scratches.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things here with Marco Sturm is that there's accountability in the locker room. There isn't, under Jim Montgomery, under Bruce Cassidy, it was a boys club, and it was very much, if you're underperforming, it's just you're going to keep getting trotted out there and you're going to try to figure it out. There is no And I think that there still is an organizational problem with the way they handle some of these young players. Like, to me, like, I don't need to see Mikey Asamont, even though he's been good. I don't need to see Tanner Jeannot. I don't need to see Jeff Viel. I don't even need to see Johnny Beecher. I'd rather see Mason Lohrei or Matt Poitras or any of these guys that are performing well. Even Blumel, who is playing okay down in Providence, but like at least can maybe contribute to the future. But now there's actual accountability, and credit to Viel. He's played well. He's played tough, and he's been a guy that isn't being willing to be pushed around, and he got his shot in the lineup and he capitalized on it, and now he gets to stay in the lineup as a result. Same thing with Mason Lohrei. Like, Mason Lohrei in previous years, they would have just kept trotting him out there to die over and over and over again because there was no type of accountability. Now he sits down for 2 weeks and you have Marco Sturm saying, like, what do you think, like, is Mason upset that he's being scratched? And he's like, he should be fucking pissed that he's being scratched.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're here to play. Like, we want you to play. Like, I think that's been the biggest adjustment to the Marco Sturm era. I thought there was a little bit of Gerard Mayo in him at the beginning of the year, and he was like, yeah, I don't know, guys aren't buying in, like, I don't know what I can do. But I think he's starting to get that buy-in. They're starting to play more of the style of hockey that the Bruins are looking to play. Like I said, I think they're going to be tough outs. I think you're going to see a lot of games like you saw last night where they're going to claw back, they're going to tie it, and they're going to lose, and ultimately I think that's for the best.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because one of these notes I have here is Marco Sturm is the guy confirmed. Like, I really like everything he's done so far. I like his post-game interviews. I like how honest he is. A lot of other coaches you see just beating around the bush. Like, this is a David Celtics breakdown. I'm not a true fan of Joe Mazzulla. I think the way he treats the media is interesting, but if he gave them a little bit more, I would be more fine with it. But he's like just kind of a jerk to them and really doesn't tell them anything.
Yeah, he does a little bit of the Belichick without having the pedigree that Bill Belichick had.
Absolutely.
So like Bill Belichick can go out there and be like, yeah, I don't know, we're just we're working things through. But Joe Mazzulla can't. He has one ring on a super team and has underperformed every other year.
Right. And that's neither here nor there, but yeah, I'm all in on Sturm. I think that we've had a lot of coaches the last couple of years, like Jim Montgomery, Joe Sacco, and Bruce Cassidy was the guy before that. And all those guys were good, but then you kind of just ship them out and they performed well elsewhere, except Montgomery's fallen back down.
Yeah, St. Louis is a train wreck down there.
But I just want some consistency here. Like, and I think Sturm should be the answer for the long term now. How long that is, I don't know. But
so let me ask you, you're a big Sturm guy, but you were also a big Johnny Beecher guy. What do we think about the quotes on Johnny Beecher after they waived him? Did you catch those, or do you want me to read them?
No,
I'll read them. Alrighty, I'll read them for you. This comes from Connor Ryan on Twitter. Good follow on the Bruins beat. For me, as a new coach, I gave him a new opportunity, and quite frankly, I thought he would be a little bit better, more effective, and I thought he wasn't. At some point, we have to make a decision how to move forward. And then followed it up with what issues hindered Beecher so far this season. And see, effort. I know it's not easy being out of the lineup, in and out of our lineup, but I have guys just waiting for this moment. End of the day, it's always up to the player.
Well,
so just, which I like, an effort-based. If you want to come out there, you want to play defense, you want to skate hard, you want to kill penalties, and you want to put in the effort like you want to be out there, then you'll be out there. If not, then have fun and get ready to learn Calgary, buddy.
Yeah, last year I was a self-proclaimed Beecher creature, but this year he didn't do anything, and then Sturm showed him the door. Like you said, the accountability is key here. If you're not buying into the new culture, then see you later. That's what this year should be about, is establishing culture. They're not going to light the world on fire. It's fun for a little while when they're beating the Canadians on their home ice, but it's like, I don't expect them to win the cup.
No, definitely not. Like I said, I think that it's more beneficial for this team to do exactly what they're doing right now, establishing the culture, ultimately miss the playoffs. And then Charlie Jacobs calls in the favor for helping Bettman set up the salary cap in the NHL, and we're back on McKenna watch.
Yeah. I have a couple more here. Fun Marat Huznadinov fact. I love him. I sent this one to you, but I am all in on this guy. I mean, playing with the first line while Elias Lindholm's out. He's performed very well. He's kind of been more of the setup guy for the other two, obviously Geeky and Pasternak, but he's had a couple clutch goals himself, and I've just enjoyed watching him. I don't know if I can fully call it a breakout, but he's been very
I think he's
good.
breaking out.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to call it a breakout. I mean, this is a guy that you got for Justin Brazeau at the deadline last year, so for him to come out of nowhere and be a productive player has been huge. I'm with you there on Who's Nadinov. We need a Who's Nadine head or something like that. I don't know. That sounds like a slur a little bit. So maybe not that one. Maybe not that one. But we need a catchy name for the Marat Who's Nadinov fan club, because I'm right there with you.
I'll cook something up for that. But regardless, Jersey of the week, Murat Huznadinov. I've been trying to find it. If anyone can find it for me, let me know. Send me the link, and it will be on the way to my house very fast.
I like it.
So I went I put a bunch of notes from the Canadians. The only real one of note is I've been watching hockey for 3 weeks, and even I know that's not interference on Hampus Lindholm. That
Yeah,
was
that
an
was
embarrassing
tough.
call.
That was a tough one.
But they killed 2 5-on-3s, and they weren't like 30-second 5-on-3s. They were like a solid minute 45. So that was pretty impressive of a win there. And then the only other one I have here is bees are a wagon. No.
Yeah, nope, sure aren't. I don't know if you caught this one. I forget. It was a TNT game. They interviewed Nikita Zadorov. Maybe it was the Toronto game, and he said that he was watching 2011 Bruins highlights to figure out what kind of style of play they wanted to play. I love that last year, people did not like Nikita Zadorov because they wanted him to be Cale Makar for some reason. It was like they were unfamiliar with who Nikita Zadorov was before getting to the Bruins, but he has been so awesome this year. Last night he takes the A over from where that McAvoy was wearing, so it was Pasta, Lindholm, and Zadorov, which I really like. Like, obviously he's taken on a leadership role in this group in a room that really didn't have any. Like, we talked about the Bruins kind of shipping out the entire old guard. There's no more Bergeron. Like, all those guys that I mentioned when talking about the Dodgers and how they get people to defer money, all those people that took team-friendly deals, for the most part, are gone. There is no more Bergeron. There is no more Marchand. Chara's long gone. Tuukka's long gone. Like, it's time to bring in this new guard of leadership, so I like to see Zadorov stepping up into that. And also, I've been echoing for years that the Bruins need to get back to playing scumbag hockey like the 2011 Bruins did, so I'm glad that they're finally starting to lean more into that. Like, I think if they adapt, if Nikita Zadorov was on the 2023 Boston Bruins, they probably win a Stanley Cup. Like, I just think that that's exactly the type of attitude and edge that they were missing in that series against Florida that just let them get absolutely bullied into blowing a 3-1 series lead.
Funnily enough, the last time I watched the Bruins as much as I have this year was 2011, and around that time, like 2012, 13. So to see them getting back to that kind of play is really cool. I mean, obviously, I don't know much about the sport in general. I'm learning. Bear with me, but it seems like a similar team, like you said, to those successful teams of old. And that's not to say they're going to win the cup this year, but I think you have to reestablish that culture to become a winning team again in the future.
Yeah, yes, I could not agree more. And I feel like I had another take I wanted to throw at you, but I can't remember what it was. But while we're on the hockey, are we going to shift for 2 weeks from David's Bruins breakdown to David's Olympic hockey breakdown?
When is that?
I forget when it's whenever the Olympics are.
They take the break, right?
Yeah, they're taking that's why they're kind of playing a like tighter schedule right now. It's a condensed schedule for the Olympics. I don't know exactly when they are though. But the games are in Milan, so I believe that they're going to be like either really early morning or really late night. So it's going to be either early wake ups or late nights for some Olympic puck, but I will be there no matter what.
I think I will have to be there as well. I'm looking here. It looks like February 5th.
That checks out. Yeah, like the 5th through the 20th.
Yeah, this is only showing me. Oh, here's men's. It looks like it starts February 11th for the men's. The women's league starts like a week before.
Okay, that makes sense.
There are times here, but I don't know if that's Italy time or not.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. I have no idea how it works. What do we got for times?
It says the first game is 16:40, so that's what, 8:40? No, that'd be it's 4:40. 4:40. Yikes! Oh, God.
I didn't know what time. I was still trying to. I was like running through my brain at what time it was. Yeah,
I'm like,
I knew
that's 8:40. No,
I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know what the actual time was.
4:40. I can confirm it's 4:40.
So that's what
God.
Katie has her phone on.
I hate it.
On military time because that's what all the stuff at the hospital she works at is in. And I'll look at her phone and be like, 1957.
Yeah,
like what the? That's a year, not a time. 1957. Yeah.
Why
Unbelievable.
is this military time? And then the other one is 21:10. So that's 9:10.
Yes, 9:10.
So I would assume that's probably Italy time. So yeah, we're looking at like early morning for these.
I don't know though, because usually they do a pretty good job of making it so that they're like, I mean, sometimes it's obviously tough, but like when they were in Russia doing hockey, which I think is the last time NHL players went, the games were early morning in Russia.
I got it.
Oh, what do we got?
Okay, so these are the Eastern Standard Times. Slovakia versus Finland, 10:40 a.m., followed by Sweden versus Italy, 3:10
AM or PM?
p.m.
Oh, okay.
And then Thursday we'll have a 6:10 a.m. start, followed by 10:40 a.m., then a couple games at 3:10 p.m. Yeah, so they're kind of all over the place here.
I got the U.S. schedule here.
Okay.
Yeah, like you said, 3:10 p.m., 3:10 p.m., 3:10 p.m. It looks like they're all set for 3:10 p.m.
Okay.
Except for the gold medal game, which is set for 8:10 a.m.
That sucks.
Yeah, I almost would rather it be like when the World Cup was in Qatar and games were starting at like 4 a.m. Like, that's way funnier to wake up at 4 a.m. to
I'm
watch
not even
some
gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, that's what I used to do with the KBO.
Oh yeah.
I think we've been over this before, but during the pandemic, I was ripping KBO games and waking up at like 3 a.m. for my dinos.
Oh, I love that. All right, well, yes, so we will do an Olympic breakdown because I'm going to be dialed on that. I'm not going to have any Bruins to watch, so.
That's true. Yep.
I mean,
all right, perfect. Maybe I'll have to make a new open. David's Olympic breakdown.
You got to get Miracle. So
yes.
Some highlights from Miracle in that one.
Obviously.
But yeah, that is the second installment of David's Bruins breakdown. Maybe next time I'll learn how to read military time. Probably not. But how did I do? Is this time more improved?
I definitely think it's more improved. I mean, obviously you have the help of the Morning Brew fellas on Saturday mornings to bounce some ideas off of, pick their brains a little bit. So yeah, definitely we're getting more of a sample size on this year's Bruin, so it's easier to kind of figure out how things are working for them. And I think that for the most part, you've been spot on.
I like that.
I still think my favorite take is I've seen Hampus Lindholm in Plymouth Rock commercials more than I have on the ice.
Well, not anymore.
Yeah. Now he's back and he's good.
Well, honestly, it probably is still more because those commercials are flying at you like at least 3-4 times a game, and he didn't play for like 2 weeks, so Plymouth Rock is probably still leading the way.
And the thing too is with him, like, how many shifts does he get a game? And it's more than like 2 or 3 times a game. It's probably like 5 or 6 times a game plus pregame and postgame. So like he's obviously getting more than 5 or 6 shifts a game. But we're talking about plus the time that they're still running and the Bruins aren't even playing. Like I guess that Plymouth Rock has a pretty hefty lead over time on ice.
We'll continue following that race. But yeah, the only other uniform thing I had was we saw the orange Ducks uniforms last night, and I love those. And I think I'm going to be getting one, but I don't know of who. I still have to get a Bruins jersey first.
My take is that the Ducks need to go back to like the OG Mighty Ducks uniforms, like the green and like the quack, quack, quack.
I wouldn't hate that.
Yeah. Give me the Gordon Bombay Ducks. Like maybe I just need to get like a Charlie Conway jersey, or like when I was at quick Mighty Ducks aside, when I was in Disney for Halloween, obviously. Bash Bro jerseys. This couple wearing Bash Bro jerseys. Fulton Reed and I forget what the other guy's first name was. Portman. Shout them the fuck out, the Mighty Ducks, the Bash Bros. I ran it past Katie. I said next year, can we be the Bash Bros? She said no.
Oh.
So yeah, pretty unfortunate, but shout out the Mighty Ducks.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's as good a place as any to end things. Did you have anything else to add? Or I know we've done 2.5 hours.
No, I don't think I have too much. I think we've good episode of Ball Talk, good episode of Puck Talk.
Yeah.
Doing double duty here. We got a new Ramble On podcast coming out in a couple hours. Got a couple hours to get ready for that one, rest the voice and whatnot. But excited for, like I said, I feel like we keep echoing that we're excited for some of the off-season content and looking to get the ball rolling on some of that stuff as we get deeper into it. So yeah, still excited for all that. Check out the YouTube channel, all the socials, what have you. And if you're a loyal Chicago Hoops fan, or you just love the sound of my voice, check out Ramble On.
Oh, I know I do. So I will be checking it out. Absolutely, as I always do. But that will do it for this lengthy episode. I think we'll probably do breaking news stuff if it comes up. I imagine it won't. before the next time we figure out a time to record. But regardless, we will be here all off season, so keep it with us. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you guys again next time.
Drake May.